What's going on, everybody? AB Media 83 here. As the title suggests, why should we support Stacey Abrams? Why? What is she going to do for black men? Well, she did. To be fair, she did come out with a so-called plan that mentioned everybody else but black men, but it was allegedly for black men. If you just read the title, apparently they didn't expect black men to go. They didn't expect us to go through and read that crap. But anyway, yeah, today we're talking about why should we take Stacey Abrams seriously? And I asked that question is because she's the one that came out and said, if black men vote for me, I'll win. She came out and said this back in, I believe it was August. She came out with this message: if black men vote for me, I'll win. And I automatically took that as if she loses, she's gonna blame black men, which is probably what's likely to happen when she loses. She already has her little plan to blame black men for not coming out and vote for her. Yada yada yada. But it seems people around the news media, people like Reverend Al Sharpton and other people are trying to shame us into voting for Stacey Abrams. And my simple question is, why? What has Stacey Abrams done for the black community? Hey, what's good, Snowman? Good to hear from you. Missed you this morning. But my question is, why should we, go all out for Stacey Abrams? She's not that good of a politician, and if you and in my personal opinion, she's not a good she's actually not a good representation of black women in politics either. Now, some people say she's well known in Georgia, blah 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 blah. None of that shit matters. She ain't got no substance. But yeah, let me go on and share this article here. Add to the screen. What? But the joke news. Trump calls it fake news. I call it joke news. Joke news is trying their best to shame us into shame people into supporting Stacey Abrams. This article is from the Huffington Post. I'm actually not going to go through it, but the gist of the article is this article is pretty much saying Killer Mike is more dangerous than Kanye West. Okay. I don't think Kanye West is that dangerous. In my personal opinion, he's gonna do what he's gonna do. But the article saying is pretty much saying this is because Killer Mike has been seen cozying up with Stacey Abrams' opponent Greg Kemp and the Georgia Senate candidate Herschel Walker. To which I say, so what? What's wrong with a black man talking to both sides? Those are believe it or not, as everybody knows, Herschel Walker is not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But if you watch that debate, he still has a chance to win that Senate seat. Yeah, that's right. Herschel. Watch the debate between Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock. As challenged as Herschel Walker is, he won the debate. Think I'm lying? Go look it up and watch it for yourself. Raphael Warnock spent the whole debate playing dodgeball and act like he couldn't answer a single question. They even asked him would he vote for Joe Biden. He's like, that's in 2024. Why are you asking me about that? But these are the kind of people that they try to shame you. These are the kind of people they want us to go vote for. They try to shame us to vote for. But anyway, this article basically saying he's a danger. If you watch that video that shout out to BGS, you watch that video BGS came out with the other day. He showed how Killer Mike pointed out how uh, uh, Governor Kemp, to his credit, was going around actually meeting with black men. Yes, that's right. A Republican actually took time out in his day. Brian Kemp took time out in his day to actually meet with black men and see what they wanted. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Who would have thought? I didn't think it was possible. That you, Charles? Yeah, I don't know why I don't have you as a mod. I think that's Charles. Yeah, you're right, Snowman. She ain't done anything for black men, and it doesn't look like she will either. But let me stop sharing this, and actually, I'm going to stop screen and. But one of the reasons I'm doing this stream is it came to my attention that a lot of people didn't see the debate between Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp, and that's one of the things I'm sharing today. So let me pull this up. Oh, here it is. Ugh! Oh, the whore. But I'm just not gonna just attack Stacey Abrams and without her saying anything. Hear for yourself to see if this is somebody you want to vote for.
Democrat is an attorney and former state legislator. Shane Hazel, a libertarian, is a veteran and podcast host. Brian Kemp, a Republican, is the incumbent governor for the state of Georgia. Now let's meet our panelists.
Boring debate.
Jennifer Bellamy is an anchor for 11 Alive
I'll make
in
it a little
Atlanta.
more fun, Charles.
Greg Bluestein is a political reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And Chuck Williams is a reporter with WRBL in Columbus, Georgia. For complete rules on today's debate, please visit the Atlanta Press Club website, atlantapressclub.org/debates. To start the debate, each candidate will be asked 2 questions. Candidates have 60 seconds to answer each question. Chuck Williams, you get the first question.
Before we continue, y'all give me a second. I need to take care of something. I don't think that's Charles. And I think that's that troll. And you're about to get hidden from my channel. All right, my bad, y'all. I don't think that's Charles. That's a troll. But anyway, let's continue this debate.
Of Stacey Abrams.
Thank you, Donna. Ms. Abrams, public opinion polls in our state show support for the right to abortion, Medicaid expansion, and banning assault weapons. You are on the side of public opinion in each of these issues, yet you are behind in almost every poll. Why?
First of all, thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity to address the communities of Georgia. The reason people are on my side are because I'm on the right side of history and on the right side of the issues. But we also know that polls are a snapshot. The question is, who are they taking a picture of? When I'm going across this state, the people I'm talking to are excited about this election, but they also know that they're often left out of the conversation.
Everybody I've talked to from Georgia ain't excited about you. I'm just saying.
Students who have found themselves struggling to finish college because they don't have access to financial aid. Families that are struggling to decide between food on their table and healthcare costs. families facing rising prices, and everyone I've met is afraid of the gun violence and the rising violence in the state. I do not believe that I'm behind. I believe that I'm making the case for Georgia, the case for electing me as the next governor, because the current failures we have seen in this.
Okay, all the polls I've read show that you're behind. Now, just because you pretend that doesn't make it true. I'm sorry.
State are not only damning, they are disqualifying. And over the next few years, we have an opportunity to change the trajectory of the state. And I look forward to leading our state forward.
Thank you very much. Greg Bluestein, it's your turn to ask a question of Brian Kemp.
Thank you, Donna. Governor, in recent weeks, 2 recordings have surfaced in which you left the door open, or you appeared to leave the door open, to questions about whether you'd push to ban emergency contraceptives and whether you'd back a statewide ban on the destruction of embryos. Can you tell us right now whether you'd push for these measures or any other additional restrictions on abortion now that the 2019 law is in effect?
No, I would not. I mean, look, we were at many campaign events. People come up, secret recordings, couldn't completely understand the conversation that's going on. But no, that's not my desire to do that. Georgians should know that my desire is to.
Oh, crap.
Under his leadership as Secretary of State, including the 10+2 who
every year. The idea that it is still illegal and that Brian Kemp has talked about this and tweeted about it as it is a good thing when we make cannabis bust and cannabis bust only is a real sign that the government in Georgia is using it for the prison industrial complex, for the law enforcement complex to go after communities that would like to see freedom in this area. So it's a right. That's how we see it as libertarians.
Right. Thank you very much. You have a rebuttal?
Yeah, I would just like to make sure people at home know that I have been doing exactly what I told them I would do when I was campaigning for governor. And now that I am your governor, we have been going after street gangs and drug cartels. So the things that we're tweeting out there is when our great men and women in law enforcement are making drug busts, not from recreational use.
It's a plant.
Other things. But that's what my focus is on.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Greg, please ask a question of Stacey Abrams.
Yeah, Ms. Abrams, in 2018, you didn't concede defeat to Governor Kemp, and you talked to systemic problems with the state's election system. This election, do you commit to accept the outcome of the vote, regardless of what it shows? And do you stand by your use of words like rigged 4 years ago to describe the state's election system?
In 2018, I began my speech on November 16th, acknowledging that Governor Kemp had won the election. I then proceeded to.
To be fair, it was close. It was like with 1 percentage point in. She did not concede right away. She did take a while to actually concede.
To lay out in grave detail the challenges faced by voters under his leadership as Secretary of State, including the 10+2 who were arrested in Quitman, Georgia, because they had the temerity to use absentee ballots. I told the story of students who were denied access to the right to vote, even though they had duly registered. 80,000 complaints had come in by that day, and it took 4 years of federal investigation in a lawsuit that was the longest running voting rights lawsuit in the state's in recent history that proved us right. Now, we didn't win every single claim, but we forced massive changes to the election laws. And unfortunately, Brian Kemp and Brad Ratzenberger have decided to restore their greatest hits. Just today, a homeless woman was denied the right to vote in Forsyth County because she did not receive a provisional ballot because she had been challenged. As governor, I intend to stand up for the right to vote. I will always acknowledge the outcome of.
Oh, by the way, Georgia's early voting has started, and they've already succeeded their 2020 numbers. But Governor Brian Kemp is trying to suppress people from voting. Okay.
Elections, but I will never deny access to every voter because that is the responsibility of every American to defend the right to vote.
Thank you, Brian Kemp.
By the way, if you like the content I'm showing, hit the Cash App, support the channel.
Buttle, 30 seconds.
Well, I would just say that Miss Abrams is going to do a lot of attacking of my record tonight because she doesn't want to talk about her own record. In 2018, in the governor's race, we had the largest African-American turnout in the country. She said that Senate Bill 202, our recent Elections Integrity Act, we passed 2 years ago, would be suppressive and Jim Crow 2.0. Just this past May in our primaries, we again had record turnout in the Republican primary and the Democratic primary. In Georgia, it's easy to vote and hard to cheat.
And I'd like to add just a second here as a libertarian.
30 seconds for you.
Although you will push for people to have access to going to the polls and voting, you're not pushing ballot access. This is a huge oppression for people like the third parties, the people that want to get their people on the ballot. We have, I think, 20% Democrats, 20% Republicans in the state of Georgia. That leaves 60% of people in Georgia unrepresented by ballot access laws that both of them support.
30 seconds, Ms. Abrams.
Actually, to correct Mr. Hazel, I co-sponsored legislation to expand ballot access because I agree with you that third parties should have better access to the right to vote in the state of Georgia. I co-sponsored it with one of our independents in the state legislature. But let's be clear about ballot access and voter access. Brian Kemp was the Secretary of State, and he has assiduously denied access to the right to vote. We know that the right to vote has assiduously denied access to the right to vote. We know that the right to
once again, Georgia has already started early voting, and they have came out in record number of people have already voted in Georgia. But Brian Kemp is holding people back from voting. Okay.
To vote is the only way that we can make the changes we need in the state, the only way we can make the changes we need in this country, whether it's access to the right to an abortion, the ability to take care of our families. We need a governor who believes in access to the right to vote and not in voter suppression, which is the hallmark of Brian Kemp's leadership.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on.
With all due respect, I was called out. I would like to just the record reflect, as my time as Secretary of State, I'm the person that created the online voter registration system in this state, where any Georgian can vote, register to vote 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So for someone to say that we have been suppressive in our state when we've seen turnout increase over the years, including with minorities like African Americans, Latinos, and others, is simply not true. And again, Ms. Abrams is going to lie about my record because she doesn't want to talk about her own.
All right, we're going to move on here.
And that's the case.
We're going to move on here, Mr. Hazel. Jennifer, your question for Brian Kemp.
Governor Kemp, several hospitals and medical centers across the state have announced.
For the record, I do feel bad for the libertarian because they do kind of skirt them to the side in this debate. But keep watching.
Gone through with plans to close their doors, leaving a gap in care and a reduction in services at a time when our healthcare workers are already suffering from burnout, from increased demand and workloads. Many are now facing care that will be delayed or unavailable, while our state's capital will soon have only one level 1 trauma center. What will you do to ensure Georgians have access to critical healthcare services and hospitals?
Well, I would just remind voters at home, there's also hospitals being built across this state and new options for people for healthcare. Look, the AMC situation was something that was thrown on a lot of political leaders, including me. But instead of complaining about it and doing the blame game, I went and worked with Fulton County, with DeKalb County, with Democrats.
For anybody just coming in and watching, first off, hit the like button, share and subscribe to the channel. But we're pretty much going over the Stacey Abrams, Brian Kemp debate, and
to come
why should black men vote for Stacey Abrams? That's what we're going over today.
With a solution that puts state resources into Grady to help make sure people have the access and the care that they need in our state. And I'm committed to continuing to do that in the future.
All right. Shane, I'm sorry. Yeah, Chuck, you get the final question to Shane Hazel.
Thank you. Mr. Hazel, you ran for Congress in 2018. That was just 4 years ago. You ran as a Republican. You got less than 30% of the vote in the Republican primary. What happened between then and now that made you a libertarian?
Oh, I actually came back to my roots as a libertarian. We believe in freedom. We saw what the Republican Party was. We saw what the Democratic Party was. They are force and coercion. No matter what they talk about, it's force and coercion. Whether it's certificate of need for hospitals, whether it is taking guns away from law-abiding citizens. It is always force and coercion at the point of a gun from the Democrats and Republicans. To look at life through consent, the eyes that, hey, we can all have transactions. We do it every day in the private sector. 99.9% of us go throughout our day without raping people, without murdering people, without pointing guns at people to take their property. That is not what the government does under Republicans and Democrats, period. That's why I became a libertarian. This is why we're going to send this thing into a runoff. And if people were really looking for something to change, you'd vote libertarian. You'd send a message to both of these parties, because one of these people will most likely be the executive in a rigged system, that you want to be more free.
Thank you. That concludes the first round of the debate. The candidates will now ask a question to each of their opponents. Candidates will have 30 seconds to ask the question, 60 seconds to respond, and the candidate who asks the questions will have 30 seconds for rebuttal. By random selection, Brian Kemp, you may ask the first question to Stacey Abrams.
Well, thank you very much. As many people know, I have over 100 sheriffs endorsing my campaign, several of which are Democrats. And my question for Ms. Abrams tonight is, how many sheriffs statewide have publicly endorsed your campaign?
Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Mr. Kemp, what you are attempting to do is continue the lie that you've told so many times. I think you believe it's the truth. I support law enforcement and did.
Okay, you didn't answer the question.
So for 11 years, worked closely with the Sheriff's Association. I'm probably the only person standing here who's ever actually written a SOP for police department when I was working for.
Notice she still hasn't answered the question yet.
For the city of Atlanta. But I have two brothers, one who has committed crimes, and I want his victims to be able to call the police and get the help they need. And I've always supported that right. But I have another brother who has faced being pulled over for driving while black when he was coming back from his job as a social worker. Unlike you, I don't have the luxury of relying on slogans to describe my position on public safety.
Once again, all that's fine and dandy, but you still haven't answered this question.
I believe that we need safety and justice because I love both of my brothers. And like most Georgians, I lead.
What does that have to do with the question?
Lead a complicated life where we need access to help, but we also need to know that we are safe from racial violence. While you may not have had that experience, too many people I know have. And that is why I will always stand up for making certain that safety and justice are the conversations we're having in Georgia and the delivery we have as the next governor of Georgia.
Thank you. 30 seconds, Mr. Kemp.
Well, I would just tell people that, look, I support safety and justice. But Ms. Abrams refused to answer the question, so I'll let you know that the answer is 0. No sheriffs are endorsing her statewide because of her stances on wanting to defund the police.
Look, she set herself up for that. For that, it is what it is.
Police, eliminate cash bail, and serving on the boards of organizations like the Margaret Casey Foundation that supports and gives grants to organizations that are promoting the defund the police movement.
If I may respond, because he actually lied there.
Yes,
I do have the support of sheriffs, but unlike Mr. Kemp, I do not make it my plan to list every person who supports me. I have the support of sheriffs. I have the support of advocates. I have the support of victims. I have the support of those who want to be treated fairly in our system. I have to have conversations with.
Okay, if all that is true, why didn't you just answer the question? Said yes, I have sheriffs supported me and pointed out who they were. What's so hard about that?
The entirety of Georgia. I don't have the luxury of being a part of a good old boys club where we don't focus on the needs of our people. And that is why my mission has been to put out very concrete plans explaining how I will serve justice, how I will serve safety, and how I will serve the citizens of the state of Georgia.
30 seconds, Brian Kemp.
Well, look, I would just tell people, I know Ms. Abrams is upset and mad because these are things that she said. This is not me making this up. This is things that she said in interviews that she's done, and she's sitting on organizations that you can go look at the facts yourself. And that's why the men and women in law enforcement want a governor that is going to stand with them, who has been with them, not only to have their back, but also stand shoulder to shoulder on things like civil unrest and going after street gangs and human traffickers.
Thank you very much. Stacey Abrams, you get the next question for Shane Hazel.
Mr. Hazel, Republicans and Democrats have raised the alarm over the rise in the Chinese Communist Party-backed companies purchasing American farmland. To date, they've purchased more than 1 million acres of farmland in the state of Georgia. Would you agree with Mike Pompeo that allowing those purchases in the state of Georgia is a sign of madness? And would you be concerned about the national security implications of the Chinese Communist Party purchasing this land with the support of the state of Georgia?
I see the setup for this question. I understand why it was projected at me. As libertarians, we believe that you own your property and that the state can't take it away from you and can't sell it or can't determine who you sell it to. The CCP, obviously, which is going through its own internal unrest right now, I believe is probably purchasing this with things like central bank digital dollars and yuan, which are also coming down to a critical nature where people are in uprising in China. What we need to look at is how these purchases are being made. Are we accepting fiat, CCP, yuan in Georgia as a actual currency? It's about as good as the US currency, the fiat currency that we're about to have hoisted on us in terms of a CBDC. I'm not going to tell you or anybody else as governor how or who to sell your property to. And I imagine that in the end, the free market will work itself out.
Thank you. Stacey Abrams, 30 seconds.
The state of Georgia is watching our farmland be purchased by the Chinese Communist Party. And while that is not normally a conversation that we have, it is something that we should be concerned about. Agriculture is our #1 industry, and Georgia has 13 military installations. The fact that the state of Georgia is working with the Chinese Communist Party, using one of their technologies that both Donald Trump and Joe Biden have warned is very much a national security threat, should be of great concern to every Georgian. This is not about being concerned simply about who's owning the land, but it's about how much access to our information they have because of the state.
Thank you. Shane Hazel, you may ask your question of Stacey Abrams.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. The military-industrial complex is a big problem. It is, and the fact that we have people trying to come here to, I don't know, get a backdoor into our, we should be talking about as Georgians and as executives is the Defend the Guard Act, where our military has been used very, I don't know, haphazardly around the world to go and take resources from the Middle East, or now in
Mr.
Ukraine.
Hazel, your question.
This is my question to who?
To Stacey Abrams.
My question to you is, I mentioned CBDCs. As the executive of Georgia, when we come into a CBDC from the Federal Reserve, will you, as the executive, accept this CCCP style currency?
I believe that the conversation about currency is a complicated one. And part of the challenge we have is how this currency is transmitted, the very real security threats with digital currency, the hacking and mining of that digital currency should concern all Georgians. As the governor of Georgia, I will work very closely with the Federal Reserve, but also with the innovators and the entrepreneurs who do see an opportunity. But before we take a step forward that could put us at risk, our responsibility is to understand the complexity of what is happening with these transactions. And as exciting as it is, we also know it's deeply problematic when we do not have the adequate safeguards in place. That's one of the reasons I've raised concerns about WeChat and about the purchase of farmland. But what we know overall is that we need a governor who's conversant in these issues, who understands that, for example, in the state of Georgia, we have access to $3.5 billion in American currency that could be delivered tomorrow to save our hospitals and to save our lives. But our current governor has refused to accept those dollars. My intention is to do what's best for the state of Georgia every single day.
Thank you. Shane Hazel, you get a 30-second rebuttal.
Yeah, working with the Federal Reserve, who's got us into the mess that we are in right now because of a centralized fiat currency, it will be absolutely worthless. They will be dangling carrots in front of the governor, in front of the executives, in front of the legislature to do exactly what their mandates are. If they are mandating that they take the property of people, then they will do it if they want to.
By the way, we're going through the Stacey Abrams, Brian Kemp, I forget this guy's name, debate, because I want people to hear Stacey Abrams for themselves. Is this a woman you would vote for?
To invade your homes, your privacy, your businesses, they will do it because of CBDCs.
All right. Stacey Abrams, please ask your question to Brian Kemp.
Absolutely. Mr. Kemp, under your leadership, there is currently a 100-year gap between minority-owned businesses and majority-owned businesses. Although minorities comprise 48% of the population, they only generate 12.2% of the business revenue in the state. And under every analysis that we have seen, it will take 100 years to close that gap, given the current process that you have in place. You served 4 years in the Senate, 8 years as Secretary of State in charge of businesses. You served 4 years as governor. What are your concrete, specific, targeted plans to decrease and address the racial equity gap currently facing contracting and purchasing for minority-owned businesses?
Governor Kemp?
Well, I would remind Georgians that the first part of my plan was keeping our state open for business and allowing all business people and working Georgians to work when Stacey Abrams was criticizing me for doing that. Also pushing to get our kids back in the classroom when, again, Stacey Abrams was criticizing me for doing that. A lot of Georgians, including African Americans and other minorities, cannot go to work if their kids are not in the classroom. We have the lowest unemployment rate in the country for African Americans. We also were named we're in the top 10 of the states for Black entrepreneurship in the state of Georgia. So our economy is incredible, and we will continue to work with all of those entrepreneurs in the days ahead.
A lot of Black business in Georgia, and particularly Atlanta. He's not wrong about that.
And working class Georgians, because we are the ones that have been fighting for you when Miss Abrams was not. We were giving tax refunds. We were doing tax cuts. We were suspending the gas tax to help you deal with 40-year high inflation when she was criticizing us.
Stacey Abrams, 30-second rebuttal.
I would point out that Mr. Kemp did not address the needs of purchasing and contracts for Black and Brown-owned businesses, which is what he has refused to do for the last 16 years. We know that $10.9 billion has been delivered to the state of Georgia through two recent acts at the congressional level. And Brian Kemp does not have a plan for making certain that people of color have access to those contracts, access to purchasing. It was only in July of this year that he finally acknowledged that there might be a problem. He has said that we need to study it. I would tell him, just cheat off of my paper. I know the answer. We need a governor who actually believes in equity, racial equity, economic equity in the state of Georgia, and I will deliver.
Wow, cheat off my paper. That's the best you got?
Thank you. Shane Hazel, please ask your question to Brian Kemp.
Brian, in 2020, on April 2nd, you locked down Georgia, threatening peaceful people with force and coercion. You called people in Georgia non-essential, and it killed millions of jobs. You bent the knee to big pharma and pushed a vaccine that was untested on people, and it has killed people. They have lost their loved ones. You've allowed bureaucracy to invade our businesses. And then you had the audacity to brag about record tax revenue. You want to say sorry to anybody?
So is that a question or?
That is a question. Do you want to say sorry to anybody?
Well, look, I'll be glad to talk about my record because obviously Mr. Hazel is gravely mistaken. If you look at the executive orders that I signed, we said every business in Georgia was essential. There was a few that we asked to help us stop the spread, flatten the curve, build PPE supplies and hospital bed capacities, because unlike him, I was getting the calls from hospitals saying, hey, we are out of surgical gowns. We're out of masks. We need ventilators. And we were literally working 24/7 to supply those items while also keeping our economy open in this state. And as you know, I was the first state to open the small parts that we asked to close, and our recovery's been as good as any state in the country. We have had 2 record years of economic development because of our business environment, working with the General Assembly to make sure that we're putting Georgians first and Georgia businesses and Georgia workers first, and that's what I'm committed to continuing to do.
30 seconds, Mr. Hazel.
You should have put Georgia freedom first, period. You didn't have the power to lock down businesses, and you signed the executive order on April 2nd. It was clear as day. I sat there and watched you do it, and I was like, there is no coming back from this. The idea that the default was to lock down Georgia instead of trusting Georgians with their freedom to adapt in a time of very changing circumstances, I think is a tyrant move. And I think the left and right are fascist and communist socialists, whereas we're talking about real liberty, trusting Georgians with those decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Hazel. Brian Kemp, you have the final question in this round for Shane Hazel.
Well, I would just ask Mr. Hazel if he supports the things that we have done because we were open and Georgians were working and we've had excess revenue. So instead of doing big government.
That's our tax money.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't support it because here's the thing is when we get to that point, when we talk about what you're doing.
I was fixing to ask my
finish your question.
Please go ahead.
I would just say, do you support the tax cuts we've done, returning $1 billion of taxpayer money and suspending the gas tax for Georgians to help fight through 40-year high inflation and bad domestic energy policy?
Georgia, I hope you hear me when I say libertarians think taxation is theft. It's your money. It's your property. You should be able to determine what you do with it. I don't support the fact that you haven't ended qualified immunity. I don't support the fact that you haven't ended civil asset forfeiture. I don't support the fact that you haven't ended the drug war. You haven't ended nonviolent crime. You hadn't ended cash bail. You haven't ended no-knock raids. You haven't implemented community review boards. And you haven't banned blacked out cop cars that go after people for more money. It's ridiculous. De-escalation by the executive to leave peaceful people alone in the state of Georgia. That's my message to both of you, to everybody in the state who wears a badge. Stop going after peaceful people.
Mr. Kemp, 30-second rebuttal.
Well, that's simply not true. As Georgians know, I have followed the laws and the Constitution of this state, and I ran on going after criminal street gangs because I knew there was an issue in our state when other people wouldn't even talk about it and the media wouldn't acknowledge it. And you look at the amount of fentanyl that's coming across the southern border because of bad border policies from this administration. Every governor in the country is having to deal with that. So yes, I'm going to go after bad people that are selling bad drugs and killing our children and our other citizens.
It's a free market way to do.
Listen, I've seen the methadone clinics up firsthand. He's not wrong about this. Fentanyl is no joke, and it's causing an incredible amount of pain throughout the country. We don't know what a methadone clinic is. That's where they send you when you're hooked on that stuff. And basically, these people have to get a shot in the arm or wherever every day to keep them off that mess. What Governor Kemp is talking about is real. And it's a real problem all over the United States. Just
do that would be to allow cannabis and psilocybin to handle the mental health issues.
Okay, well, I wasn't talking about cannabis. I was talking about deadly fentanyl.
Stop busting them then.
Gentlemen, we're going to move on. That concludes our second round. For those just joining us, this is the general election debate between candidates for governor. We will now go back to the panel to ask questions to the candidate of their choice until we run out of time. As a point of moderator privilege, I may also ask questions of the candidates, and I will determine when a rebuttal is appropriate. And I'm going to use that moderator privilege right away to ask some education questions. Mr. Kemp, if reelected, you've said you'll push for $65 million dedicated to fighting pandemic learning loss, hiring more counselors, and recruiting teachers to fill shortages. How do you respond to those who say you should have prioritized those academic-related issues over laws dealing with divisive concepts, parental laws, and obscene books in the past legislative session? Even those who were pushing for those laws in the end say they don't have much teeth.
Well, look, we have been pushing for those things. You can talk to school superintendents around the state. We have worked with them really over the last year and a half, 2 years on learning loss. We've been working with our superintendents and other education groups. We've passed 2 different pieces of legislation dealing with the teacher pipeline.
For those of you just coming in, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and to hit the Cash App. Hey, what's going on, Mace? Good to see you. Good to see you, brother. Right now I'm going over the Stacey Abrams, Brian Kemp debate. I want brothers to hear Stacey Abrams herself, since if black men vote for her, she'll win, allegedly.
Which is getting more teachers into the system. Our plan is working with higher education, including our HBCUs and others, to make sure we're getting more of the right people and more of them in the classroom to help mentor our children. This is really just the next step in the process. We are funding K through 12 education in this state more than we ever have per pupil, ever. And that's coming off a recession during the middle of a global pandemic. This includes my promised teacher pay raise of $5,000 that we completed in my first full term, despite having to deal with 2 years of a global pandemic and a recession. So I think it's incredible what we've been doing, but make no mistake, we have more work to do, and I'm committed to doing that.
Thank you. Shane Hazel, would you tell us your education plan?
Yeah, it's to put it in the hands of the private sector. The government education system that came from Prussia in the 1700s has obviously failed Americans. We don't understand economics. We don't understand our civil culture. We don't understand.
By the way, I just put the StreamYard link in the chat. If anybody wants to come, you're welcome to do so.
Understand a whole lot about what goes on behind the scenes in politics. The idea that we want to privatize everything as libertarians is good for education. Think about Walmart having a monopoly on force to teach your children. It's insane. The idea that we do this with a government has side effects. We see them on a daily basis. We need to get government out of education. We need to allow parents to seek out the best education for their kids. And we also believe that they have the responsibility to do so. So to help fix this nation, start here in Georgia, is get the government and the admin out of the classroom and get it out of our lives.
Thank you. Ms. Abrams, in education, you propose a boost in teachers' pay, more state-paid preschool slots for lower-income children and their families, and more. If you win the governor's race, you'll likely have Republican majorities in both chambers. Given what we know about partisan divisions, how will you get your education proposals passed and funded?
So let's begin with what my proposals are. Georgia is sitting on a $6.6 billion surplus. That's money that we have after we've paid every bill, after we've put 15% aside for a rainy day fund. That is money that after we've accounted for increases in population. And I want to invest it in our children and in our families, beginning with making certain that we have pre-K slots. We have 4-year-olds on a waiting list. I've never met a 4-year-old who waits to turn 5. But we can solve that problem with the money we have right now. We can also give an $11,000 pay raise to our teachers instead of a $5,000 pay raise on layaway. We can make certain that we are increasing access to the pipeline because teachers aren't in the pipeline because they can't make enough money to take care of themselves and their families. And that is why under this governor, we have a 67% retention rate. Any other CEO who lost more than 30% of their workforce would be fired. And that is why my plan is to use the resources we have today to plan for today and tomorrow. We've got the money, and we have economists in Georgia and national economists who have looked at my plan, and they say it works. Check my plan out at StaceyAbrams.com. Check my map. It works.
Thank you. 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'd just like to let people know.
Oh, by the way, I checked out Stacey Abrams' plan for Black men, and she actually goes. She actually doesn't mention. It says Black men on the title, but when you read through it, is that it doesn't address anything that's specifically towards Black men. But we're supposed to take her seriously. Okay.
No, look, my plan is to use the revenue that we have because we've been open. If Stacey Abrams had been your governor over the last 4 years, you wouldn't have that excess revenue because she wanted the state to stay locked down and criticize me when I opened it back up. We have, in fact, been using this revenue and will do so in the future to do another income tax refund and put the money back in your pocket. We're also going to do a property tax relief grant one time that helps you with rising property values and rising property taxes that the counties are not rolling back.
Thank you very much.
If I may respond, because
30 seconds.
This is going to go back and forth between the Democrats and the Republicans. If they keep attacking each other, I'm going to say
we've got to move on. Ms. Abrams, 30 seconds.
For
Mr. Hazel, we've got to move on.
We're not going to be excluded from this.
I'm not excluding you, but he did refer to her, so we are going to have her speak.
For libertarians,
take money and property from
they can't get your break.
Don't even attend your schools because they don't agree with them.
We want to move on. Ms. Abrams,
I want to point out 3 things that were inaccurate. One, I urged caution because any leader should privilege the lives of those they serve. 38,000 people died in Georgia. We have one county where 1 in every 100 Hancock County residents perished under this governor. And so, yes, I urged caution, but I also urged good math. We have the money in our accounts to do what is right. Money not delivered by Brian Kemp, money delivered by federal Democrats, and money that is delivered by hardworking Georgians who have generated the surplus, and they deserve investments in their lives. And
I said earlier in the stream, I kind of feel bad for the libertarians because they do kind of just brush past them.
Income taxes that we keep hearing about. 50,000 people are getting $500 million. The rest of us are going to see $193.
Thank you.
That is not a good return on investment.
Shane Hazel, 30 seconds, please.
It's stolen money. All of it's stolen money from people who have property. The fact that we have property tax in America has got to be one of the most un-American things I've ever heard of. There are a lot of us at homeschool because we don't believe in the government school system, and we are still fleeced every year to the tune of thousands and thousands of dollars to pay for a broken school system that we don't agree with. That's
Right.
both of you guys.
Well,
I'm
Don,
sorry.
with all due respect, Ms. Abrams called me out again
All right.
about these.
30 seconds, and then we really are going to move on.
But the federal money that we're able to use right now and spend is because our state was open, and we didn't have to use this federal money to backfill state revenues, which has put us in an incredible position to move.
Before we continue, hit the Cash App, support the show, support the channel. You're just coming in, hit the like button, share, and subscribe to the channel.
Forward in our state.
Mr. Kemp, we're one of several states that have had the same exact experience. It is disingenuous to claim
not having the
done this on your
conversation.
own.
We're going to move on.
It's the people's money.
We're going to move on, gentlemen, and Ms. Abrams. Greg Bluestein, you have the next question.
Ms. Abrams, I'm going to go back to one of Donna's underlying questions, which is the how issue.
Absolutely.
You've staked out dozens of policy proposals that would have to win approval from lawmakers, including Medicaid expansion, including several of the proposals you outlined here today. But it's highly likely the legislature will remain in Republican control. How are you going to win approval of these measures when in the face of staunch Republican opposition?
Well, I don't actually believe there is staunch Republican
Hey, Nicer, good to see you.
opposition. I served in the legislature for 11 years, and every day during my tenure, I worked across the aisle to get good done. They put it in my title. I was minority leader, meaning I couldn't win unless I could work with others. That is why I'm the only person I know of who got an A rating from the Georgia Chamber of Commerce and the Friend of Labor Award for the same work in the same year. The work that I do is working with people to find out how we get solutions. Medicaid expansion is a perfect example. We have 19 hospitals at risk of closure, joining the 6 hospitals that have closed under this governor. We are sending a Brinks truck of $3.5 billion of our money to Kentucky, to Louisiana, to Ohio, because this governor will not accept the money. And the resources that we need in our state will come to our state when we have leaders willing to work across the aisle to bring our money home. But it's more important than that. It's about how do we take care of our families? How do we make certain that we're addressing high housing prices? How do we tackle the issue of gun violence? How do we support our freedoms and protect our people? And we need a governor who can do the math, but also do the morality of making sure we take care of every single Georgian.
Thank you, Ms. Abrams. Governor Kemp, you have 30 seconds.
Well, I would just say that one way we deal with gun violence is to take the bad people that are doing the shootings and lock them up and not in cash bail like Ms. Abrams wants to do. But listen, she's also said that the silver bullet on healthcare is Medicaid expansion, adding 650,000 people. Well, there's been 600,000 people added to the Medicaid roll since I become governor. And the problem is it's a broken government program that she wants the government to decide your healthcare that will also kick 200,000 private citizens off their private sector healthcare.
Thank you.
I may respond.
30-second rebuttal.
Just talk about
he
this.
called her name. Ms. Abrams, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
This is ridiculous.
Number one, Medicaid expansion will allow 500,000 Georgians who are working people to get access to health care.
All right, let's continue.
That is a good thing in a state where we have people dying every day from cancer, from issues with health, issues with diabetes, issues with heart disease. But number two, the 600,000 people that he references who are on Medicaid, they are put there because of the public health emergency. And when that ends, they will lose health care, which will add more people who are on the streets unable to get health care. Under this governor, we've lost 6 hospitals. We have ambulance wait times that are excessive, and our people need relief and they need their money back.
I would like to weigh in.
We want to give our panelists a chance to ask more questions. So, Chuck Williams, it is your turn to ask a question, Mr.
It's insane.
Governor, the Democrats have controlled the U.S. Senate for 2 years because Georgia shifted from 2 Republicans to 2 Democrats in January of 2021. One of those seats was held by Kelly Loeffler, a person you appointed to that post. She then lost to Senator Warnock. Do you wish you had made a different choice when you selected Kelly Loeffler?
Well, no, not at all.
Probably heard horror stories of folks going into a timeshare sales pitch and being stuck there for hours.
With this symbol of our love, I'm giving her my heart forever.
I hate these advertisements. Daggone it. Just ruined the whole flow.
Policies that have raised taxes on hardworking Americans and Georgians when they promised they would not. We're working with the General Assembly to help you fight through that by suspending the gas tax and giving your money back.
Thank you very much.
Pocket.
Thank you very much. Greg, your next question.
Governor, I want to stay with you and talk about something that just came up at the last exchange a little bit. Earlier today, you rolled out a new public safety plan that offers a crackdown, promotes a crackdown on criminal offenses. What it doesn't specifically address is gun violence. Your critics say that your permissive gun policies will only lead to more crime. What do you propose you will do in a second term if you're reelected to address gun-related crimes?
That's probably why
again, we're going after the people that are doing these gun-related crimes. I mean, and that's what we're doing, going after street gangs in this regard. You know, during the pandemic, when I was talking to people about how we were responding and what we were dealing with, I was hearing from educators and athletic directors and other people saying, Governor, we got to get our kids back in the classroom because we're losing them. We're going to lose them a decade of children because these kids that we're recruiting when they're 13, 14, 15 years old to be on the ball field or be in the band or be on the robotics team or what have you, extracurricular activity, they're being recruited by street gangs because they're not in the classroom. So those are the kind of things that we are focused on to make sure that these kids are under the right environment. And my new public safety plan is stiffening penalties for gang members that are recruiting our children. And I believe that most Georgians support that. And I'm committed to working with all law enforcement to make a dent there.
Thank you. Chuck Williams.
This is for Governor Kemp and Ms. Abrams. Columbus, Macon, Atlanta, and other communities have benefited from a Georgia State Patrol task force that has helped augment police coverage in those cities and some others over the last year. What can be done to make sure that local agencies that are short on officers can handle these policing duties without having to rely on the state? Ms. Abrams?
Well, you actually asked Mr. Kemp first.
I said for both. Okay,
yeah, it's for both.
Governor.
Yeah, look, I'm glad that answered that question. The crime suppressing unit that I asked Colonel Wright to put together during civil unrest, when I grew tired of local elected political leaders that wouldn't let their local law enforcement go after dangerous people during civil unrest, that had no chase policies, where street racers and street gangs are terrorizing our citizens, I told Colonel Wright, I wanted a plan. I wanted to know how much it's going to cost, and I want to know who we're going to work with. And that's why the State Patrol, GBI, Department of Natural Resources, game wardens, working with the Fulton County Sheriff, who's helped us with jail facilities.
Look, I see my numbers. I know this is boring, but I thought it was important to go through this debate so brothers can actually get a good look at who Stacey Abrams is and who if there's any brothers from Georgia watching, who they would be voting for.
The Atlanta Police Department, we went and put a plan together to start going after street racers and going after violent criminals and have more boots on the ground. We've done the same thing in Columbus. We've done it in Macon. We've done it in Savannah, and we'll do it wherever we're needed. This is not our job. We're using funds from the governor's emergency fund to help pay for these dollars. And thankfully, the General Assembly supports that, because we've been in the fight when others were not.
Thank you. Ms. Abrams?
Street gangs did not shoot 6 Asian women going into a gun store, getting a weapon, and murdering women in less than an hour. Street gangs aren't the reason people are getting shot in grocery stores and in parking lots and at schools. Street gangs are one part of the problem, but we have a governor who has weakened gun laws across this state, flooded our streets with guns by letting dangerous people get access to those weapons. Georgia does not have a waiting period. We do not have universal background checks. And one of the few permits that we had that was helping keep us safe stopped 5,000 people who should not have had weapons from getting them, got weakened by this governor with his criminal carry law. As the next governor, my intention would be to actually give the people who do 90% of law enforcement the support they need. We know that they have asked for at least $136 million so they can recruit and retain officers. I am the only candidate who's put in place a plan for at least $25 million in grants, not loans, to go to these local law enforcement officers so they can recruit and retain officers so that their officers aren't working 2 or 3 jobs simply to make ends meet.
Thank you. Before your rebuttal, Governor Kemp, Shane Hazel, you may respond to this question.
You keep going back to guns, Stacey, and I think it's going to be your undoing here in Georgia. Georgia, we're going to have.
He ain't wrong about that. He ain't wrong about that. They in the Bible Belt. It ain't a good. That ain't a good place to talk about. I'm gonna take your guns. That ain't the place to do it. I'm just saying.
less and less gun laws, whether it's under Republicans or libertarians. Libertarians don't believe in any gun laws. We believe that you know how to best protect you and your property. And the biggest mass murderer in history is government. It's not private citizens. Most private citizens, like I said before, go throughout their day
Hey, what's going on, Mace?
any harm to anybody. However, when the government with
How you doing, man?
still go after
Doing
people
all right.
with a badge.
That's good, man. That's good.
I just wanted
Holly Springs,
to,
Georgia, I introduced the Helios
hear Stacey
Initiative,
for
where we got
herself.
rid of civil asset.
Not
Yeah, I'm listening.
It was a one-page bill through decentralization, nullification, using the Constitution that made the officers in Holly Springs safer because they don't have to go out there and they don't have to harass people of color while driving while black.
I kind of feel bad for the libertarian. They picking on him.
They don't have to go out there and do any of these things because civil asset forfeiture is also the government stealing more than criminals, hardened criminals, from anybody and everybody in the state of Georgia.
Thank you. Governor Kemp, 30 seconds.
Well, thank you. I would just let people at home know the largest, fastest growing segment of the population that's buying handguns and firearms is African Americans and females. You know why? Because the criminals are the only ones that do have the guns. You have local governments that are holding up concealed weapon permits that are keeping law-abiding citizens from being able to simply use their Second Amendment right to protect themselves and their property and their families. I will certainly support that.
Thank you.
Mr. Hazel, may I respond?
Yes, 30 seconds.
Let's be clear. I believe that we can protect the Second Amendment and protect second graders at the exact same time. That means that, yes, more people are buying guns, but that's because they think that's the only.
Oh, well, let's pause this for a little bit. You been doing all right, Mace?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you, man?
I'm doing all right. Just trying to get some content up.
Everything's good with your legs, bro, with the cramping stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's good,
I'm fine.
Oh.
I'm fine as far as that's concerned. Got to go tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. Back to the hellhole, bro.
Yeah, it can be fun sometimes.
You know, I was one of those what you call those people? I was always ostracized. So I was ostracized at my clinic. I didn't care. All I did was go in and get my treatment and go home.
Okay.
I like being at home. I want to say something about this woman right here.
Sure, go ahead.
Just looking at her, the way she looks right there. If black men rally around this woman, bro, you must vote to say, black men, look, you guys are the dumbest group of
well, look, woman. And I actually have to be fair to black women on this too, because they pointed out the same thing. She's not the best representative of black women either. In politics, I'm just saying.
Oh my God!
And black women have pointed this out, and I can't disagree with them. Well, instead of disagreeing with, but this is the woman they want to shame us into voting for. I'm like, y'all haven't done your homework. Y'all can't do any better than Stacey Abrams, really?
Hey, I gotta ask you a question. Besides Stacey Abrams, did you hear about these two chicks on MSNBC? They call them the race ladies.
Who? Probably Tiffany Cross and
yeah.
Joy Reid.
Well, Joy
I don't really
Reid,
watch them, but I didn't even know who Tiffany Cross was. I wouldn't even know who Tiffany Cross was, but what's for professional black truth.
She's coming out with a book, I think, this week.
Okay.
And it talks about how racist she is, her and the other lady. I know the other lady. She's this stupid Joy Reid. She's just dumb.
Oh, Joke Reid is a.
Yes. I have said everything. I mean, come on. But this woman,
I stopped watching the MSC like 4 years ago, so I don't necessarily keep up with them like I used to.
How bad is this woman racially that Tucker Carlson had this guy on talking about her? And what's our boy? Damn, I forgot his name. He has his own sport. Jason Whitlock. He called her, she is the mouthpiece for corporate America, how they really feel about us as a group.
Ooh. Yeah, I can believe that. Did you see that? God awful music video that came out? No voting, no bucking.
No, I'm glad I didn't see that.
Yeah, and it's exactly what it sounds like. And they actually said at the end of the video, if the coochie is to go to the polls.
You know,
and after that, I was like, that's like, see, now I'm just going to go to war on the Democrats, because now it's just time to go to war. Like, no, you're not going to insult me like that and think I'm going to come out and vote for you. That's not going to happen. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, keep talking. This is your platform, brother. I'm just listening.
But I after I saw that, I was like, are they fucking serious?
Oh my
You
God.
think I'm gonna let you shame these young black men and to go out and to vote for you, and you putting out bullshit like this? I kid you not, the music video was done by a fruitcake, read between the lines.
Fruitcake.
A fruitcake male and an 0304.
Oh man, you gotta be kidding me, man.
Yeah, what was his name?
Right now.
Saucy Santana and Trina. Like I said,
Trina was doing the music video for this
yes,
shit?
that old hoe Trina was doing the music
video. Trina.
talking about no voting, no fucking
what has happened to you, honey?
She still thinks somebody wants to touch that coochie. I'm like you've been ran through for over 20 years. Why would we want to touch it?
Shout out to BMT and the great, paying homage to BGS Immore. Dude, it is bad, bro. No, really. If they really believe that black men are that gullible.
Hey, what's good, BMT?
Is that gullible to vote because they're saying no, you know what? They're crazy, bro.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. No voting, no fucking. And I'm like, what the fuck is that?
And again, this is what happens when you put your business out there for everybody to know. You know? Now everybody thinks that we're all simps, desperate for
nah, we ain't all like that.
But tell me about this woman that's the race lady. Tell me about this Tracy, whatever her name is. Curious.
Oh, you talking Tiffany Cross?
Yeah, Tiffany. Yeah, tell me about this.
I don't know much about her really. I know she came out with a little segment earlier talking about black men need to come out and vote for Stacey Abrams. That's the only reason I know about her. I don't watch MSNBC like that.
I don't watch either, but the latest one with her was basically she was saying that black people was asleep on the wheel about how true black Kamala Harris is. Is this woman out of her goddamn mind? First of all, Kamala Harris is as dragon woman as you get. And if you don't know what a dragon woman is, women like her are users and abusers, and they are go-getters, and they get what they want for power. They're power hungry. Or they want to be with a guy that's power hungry. That's why she's married to the guy she was.
Shout out to Master Teacher in my chat, BGS Itmore.
Yes, shout out to all these guys. Look who he was with 25 years ago. He was one of the highest talk show hosts in the world. That was Montel Williams. Once Montel fell off, got sick, she jumped over somebody else, then somebody else, then somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And she's trying to tell me and other black people that this woman is really a true black woman. Is she out of her damn mind? That's the problem with a lot of these boule Negroes, bro.
Yeah, don't get me started.
They always feel that they're above it all, just because they want to get so close to whiteness.
Just over I don't even call it a butter biscuit anymore. At this point, they're fighting for molded butter biscuits. The fuckers are molded. They're not even real butter biscuits. They're molded butter biscuits. They're old ass butter biscuits that need to be thrown away. Probably make you sick and throw up.
It's crazy, man.
But let's finish this debate.
Yeah.
Only way to protect themselves because guns have flooded our streets. These are communities that want to be safe. They don't want to have to carry weapons. I know how to shoot. My great-grandmother taught me. But I know that the person who is most responsible is the person who holds the weapon. And that is why I will quote Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. And because of the criminal carry law that Brian Kemp signed into law, there is no longer a background check for those who have concealed carry permits. That makes all of us
Thank you
less
very
safe.
much.
How are you going
Thank you
to
very
take
much.
the guns?
Actually, has a good
Gentlemen,
response to this.
How is she going to take the guns? That's a
we
great
really
question.
want to move on.
Well, there is a
30
federal
seconds.
background check. There's a federal background check on every individual that buys a firearm in the United States of America.
Which shouldn't exist either.
So,
That is not true.
well,
Mr.
the point,
Mr.
I
Kemp, that's not
understand,
true.
I understand the point you're making, but the point is, when you buy a firearm, you get a background check.
Mr.
And
Kemp,
none of the laws
More tyranny.
changed. On
Mr.
who-
Kemp, if you purchase
none
a
of-
weapon in Georgia through a gun sale or a private sale,
Well,
through
Ms.
a gun
Abrams,
show or a
I
private sale,
haven't-
you're
I
not
All right,
subject
we're
to that
gonna
background.
have to
not
move on.
interrupted you tonight. and I would
apologize.
appreciate it.
Candidates, we
I do
have to
apologize,
move
Mr.
on.
Kemp.
I'm
I
going to
apologize.
allow Jennifer to ask what's going to be the final question in this round.
A study recently showed frustration among our nation's teachers with political interference into education, with issues like COVID-19 and critical race theory presenting additional challenges to a profession that's already dealing with low pay, falling interest, and people leaving. What would you do specifically as governor to recruit, retain, and empower educators for schools across the state of Georgia for each of you?
Shall I?
All right, we'll start with you, Ms. Abrams.
And let me again apologize to Mr. Kemp for interrupting.
It's
This
all
is a
course you're
very
gonna
important
apologize to
topic
the
me,
white
and I
master.
apologize for my
Right.
outburst. I will say that when it comes to education, we know teachers are leaving the
That's how you
workforce.
black women are.
We have
Good.
a 67% retention rate, but 70% of our teachers have said they would not recommend teaching to their colleagues. That is because of low pay, because of overregulation, because of high stress, and because they believe that they are being told to teach to a curriculum that does not reflect the values and needs of our students. When a teacher is told that you have to lie to a child, which is what happened with the divisive language, the divisive concepts legislation, teachers are not being able to teach the whole history of our students. They're not able to tell their children what they need to know. As the next governor of Georgia, I will repeal those laws.
Okay, this coming from the party that lets drag queens read to our children. I'm just saying. I would have more sympathy for with this line of thought if Democrats weren't trying to send drag queens into our schools to teach kids how to read and stuff. Have drag queens reading to our kids.
I will increase pay, and I will make certain that all of our teachers can start and continue through their time well paid and well protected and well supported by the government.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so only 45 seconds. So, Brian Kemp.
Well, I would just say this is exactly why I did the $5,000 teacher pay raise that I ran on in 2018. We've also done a Parents' Bill of Rights to have parents fully engaged with their schools to make sure that they know what's happening in their kids. Quite honestly, people are tired of their kids being indoctrinated in the classroom. But we've also worked with our educators on these pieces of legislation to make sure that they make good common sense. But I would also tell you that people are tired of these issues like not having fairness in girls' sports and other things. And quite honestly, it's woken a lot of people up. So we got to continue to have good conversations like we've done with our teacher pipeline legislation.
I would imagine he's talking about, how they letting the Transformers play in girls' sports now.
Yeah, of course.
But then that's been that. Even some people on the left are like, yeah, we need to reverse that crap because that's going too far. But let's tell you,
like we're doing,
video's almost done.
9,000 parapros get fully certified to be in the classroom.
Thank you very much. Shane Hazel, you get 45 seconds.
Your question raises a lot of interesting points. A lot of these teachers, like my own wife, has left the profession of teaching to homeschool, to go to private school, to do something outside of this narrative where admin from the federal government and the state government is forcing them to teach things they don't want to teach to test. They can't stand the administration who makes six figures. It is bloated. It is absolutely gotten out of control. We need to nullify property tax. We need to let people get out of the system. We need to allow the private sector to work, because before education,
he's a Kool-Aid thinker, libertarian
government here, we had some of the most well-read people in the entire world.
This is the type of white man that's
Thank you
the
very
sister
much.
is
We are running
hosting
out of
this.
time, so that is all the time we have for questions. Each candidate will now have only 40 seconds for a closing statement. And Brian Kemp, you get the first.
Yeah, this one, she's right, my man.
Well, first of all, let me thank the Atlanta Press Club for having us. When I ran for governor in 2018, I promise to put hardworking Georgians first ahead of the status quo and the politically correct. I said shortly after being sworn in, I would work hard as your governor every single day for all Georgians, whether you voted for me or not. I'm so optimistic about the future of our state, the lowest unemployment rate in the history of the state, the most people working, and economic opportunity in all parts of our state, no matter your zip code or neighborhood. Stacey Abrams said Georgia's the worst state in the country to live. Well, Marty, the girls and I disagree. We think Georgia's the greatest state in the country to live, work, and raise our children.
Of course, listen to the way you
for your vote
sound.
and support to
Get
keep
right
it
in,
that
bro.
way. Thank you, and God
Don't
bless.
forget your hood.
Thank you, Stacey Abrams. 40 seconds.
I too want to thank everyone tonight for your support.
Oh yeah, he does have that good old boy accent. I ain't gonna lie. But at this point, the way Democrats operate, I prefer him up front. I prefer a good old boy up front. I'm like, okay, at least I know what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's hear what she has to say.
And I want to point out that Brian Kemp did make promises. He promised to keep us safe, but crime has gone up. He promised to protect us, and yet he's attacked our freedoms. He has promised to take care of our families, and yet the rising prices in Georgia are rising because he refuses to expand Medicaid, because he refuses to tackle the affordable housing crisis that we have, and he's sitting on $400 million of our money that he will not spend to keep us under roofs and in our homes. As the next governor, I want us to have more money in our pockets, more protections in our lives, more freedoms in our days.
By the way, the housing it's a lot more complicated than Kemp. I can tell you. There's an article that just came out on how these renters are actually using software to jack up all the rent prices.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's trust and believe. It's much deeper. It's much deeper than just Kemp. But let's finish. Let's let the heifer finish. Oh, good Lord.
And more opportunity in our communities. I see all of Georgia. And as the next governor, it would be my intention to serve all of Georgia. I encourage you to go to my website, StaceyAbrams.com, and please make a plan to vote. And know that I'm asking you for your vote tonight.
Thank you. Shane Hazel, you get the final 40-second closing statement.
Georgia, you are essential. We are in changing times. Technology, money, politics are all changing incredibly fast. As humans, our superpower is our ability to adapt to a changing world. This power to adapt, our passion and genius is unleashed when it is free. Free from tax, free from government and their lockdowns, free from government mandates, and free from force and coercion. You know best how to adapt and run your life, and that is your right to do so. It is time for peaceful people who are free to take on the challenges we face. Our message to the government is simple. It's time to leave peaceful people alone. If you believe the government is
they get that libertarian a hard time.
My man is totally ignoring her, bro.
Yeah.
He's like saying,
you know what? I feel like doing a bonus thing. Have you heard of Herschel Walker? Haven't you?
Of course.
Herschel
Making
Walker.
a fool out of himself.
Oh, that's not even the funny part. You're actually correct about that. But believe it or not, and you know what? I think I am going to show it. He actually won his debate.
Well, I heard the other person was dumber up there who he was debating with.
Yeah.
Couldn't make it up.
Yeah. You know what? Let's just go through it. Let me look it up. Let's see. Walker. Yeah. Herschel Walker is not the sharpest knight in the drawer, but he won this debate. I'm sorry. I don't care what nobody says. All right, this is okay. This is good. All right. Yeah, we got a bonus here, folks. It's my stream. We got a bonus. We got a bonus debate to look at. I'm gonna warn you up front. This debate is a clusterfuck, but we're gonna play it anyway. All right, you still there, Mace?
I'm right here, bro. I'm just waiting there. Where's he walking?
All right, let's see. What am I looking for? I'm looking for percent. Share screen. Microsoft Edge. Georgia Civic debate.
The people of Georgia have a real choice about who they think is ready to represent them.
Lord have mercy.
For your vote. Leland, thank you very much. Senator Warnock, Mr. Walker, good evening to you both. We appreciate you being here, and we look forward to hearing from you both tonight. And for those of you at home that are following along, we'd like for you to use the hashtag GASEN debate. Once again, it's hashtag GASEN debate.
Good to see you as well, gentlemen. We began tonight with opening statements. A card draw determined who will go first. Mr. Walker, we will begin with you. You have 60 seconds.
First, I'd like to acknowledge my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Taught me about faith, family, education.
Shout out to Officer Charles Parker.
They also taught me about a good work ethic. And because of that, I found the America's dream. But this race ain't about me. It's about what Raphael Warnock and Joe Biden had done to you and your family. Tonight, he's going to try to sweet talk you that he's doing a good job.
Actually, he's not wrong about that, but let's continue.
I'm here to tell you that they've raised your taxes, gave you high inflation. They even put men and women's sports. And I want to let you know that Raphael Warnock, we give him 6 more years, think what he's going to do. So I'm here to fix it.
Mr. Walker, thank you. Senator Warnock, we turn now to you for your opening statement. You have 60 seconds.
Well, thank you so very much. And hello, Georgia. It's so wonderful to be back here in my hometown. Now, I know that we're in a debate tonight, but really I come with a deep heart filled with gratitude, probably because I grew up about a mile from here in the Caton Homes housing projects. I'm one of 12 children in my family. Clearly, my preacher parents read the Bible. Be fruitful.
12 kids didn't do a good job, I tell you.
I think about the arc of my life, the short distance and the long distance from there to here. I know that only in America is my story possible. My family taught me the importance of hard work and how to build the beloved community that Dr. King used to talk about. And I brought that spirit to the Senate.
Oh, just a side note, he's actually pastor over Dr. King's old church. Believe it or not.
Okay.
But that doesn't change the fact you'll see for yourself.
At the end of the day, this race is about who's ready to represent Georgia in the U.S. Senate. I think that choice is clear. And I look forward to having that discussion tonight.
Thank you, Senator Warnock. Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to this hour. So we will start tonight with the most important issues facing Georgia voters.
Our next star, Emerson College The Hill poll shows the economy, threats to democracy, and abortion access are the top 3 issues. We're going to begin tonight with the economy. Everyday Georgians are struggling. They're struggling to pay for food, gas, childcare, housing. This week, the inflation rate continues to rise. Mr. Walker, we're going to start with you. You've been openly critical, blaming President Biden and the Democrats for inflation and for the economy. If elected, what is one idea that you would champion to reduce inflation? We ask you to be specific. You have 60 seconds.
Well, first of all, you have to blame this administration and Senator Warnock because within 2 years, this inflation has gotten worse. They cut our energy independence. They also raised taxes. And at the same time, they reckless spending all our money. So he would sit here tonight and say that he's doing a good job for us. And you ask me, what is one job I would do to help the inflation? First of all, we got to become independent, energy independent again. And the reason why, we're going to our enemies to ask for gas and oil. And that puts us not just in a inflation problem, but it put us on a national security problem. And I think that's something that I think Senator Warnock need to realize. And he mentioned that he grew up here in Savannah with 12 siblings, Well, in this area, most people live paycheck to paycheck. And when you have inflation the way he's brought inflation on, how in the world can you buy grocery or gas for your family?
A follow-up question to that, Mr. Walker. Most economists say that cutting government spending is the first step in economic recovery. I would want to ask you, would you consider cutting military funding or spending on social services to accomplish this goal? And you have 30 seconds.
I would not think about cutting military spending because first, I believe in peace through strength. Right now, we're at a brink of war. And I think right now with Senator Warnock, who he and Joe Biden, they don't show any strength. And we have to protect this country. And I said it early on, right now, because we're giving our energy up to our enemies that don't like us, we have to be ready for war. This is not a playground. So we have to be ready for war right now.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Senator Warnock, since President Biden has taken office, inflation has reached levels that we haven't seen in 40 years. You've supported nearly every
ready for the
piece of
dodgeball
legislation that this administration has pushed through Congress. Do you take any responsibility for the financial hardships currently that Georgians are facing? And you have 60 seconds.
There's no question that people are feeling pain at the grocery store, at the pump, at pharmacy counters. And while we are paying record prices, a lot of our corporate actors are seeing record profits in the oil and gas industry and the pharmaceutical industry, which is
okay. Whose fault is that? Who's in the Senate right now? Who could do something about that?
I'm looking at him.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mace. Who has the majority in the Senate? Oh, right. All right, it's the Democrat Party.
Yes.
But they're letting all this goofy shit happen. But it's somehow Herschel's fault. And yes, it's kind of obvious that Herschel's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But let's continue. There's a reason why I said we won this debate.
which is why I've stood up for ordinary, hardworking Georgia families time and time again. I passed the single largest tax cut, contrary to what my opponent is suggesting, for middle and working class families in American history. And we passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which had two of my provisions. One caps the
which ironically hasn't reduced inflation. But it's called the Inflation Reduction Act, but it hasn't reduced inflation. Gas is still damn near $4 a gallon.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Cost of prescription drugs for seniors, so they don't have to choose between buying medicine and buying groceries. And one caps the cost of insulin. He said he would not have voted for the Inflation Reduction Act, and I think he should tell the people of Georgia why he thinks they should have expensive insulin and why the pharmaceutical companies should be able to charge us whatever they like.
Well, first of all, may I respond? I believe in reducing insulin, but at the same time, you got to eat right, because he may not know, and I know many people that's on insulin, and unless you have eating right, insulin is doing you no good. So you have to get food prices down, and you got to get gas down so they can go get insulin. And you continue to pat yourself on the back, but right now, families are starving. Right now, families are hurting, and they're hurting because of the bills and the laws you're passing right now.
Senator Warnock, I'll give you an opportunity for a
Listen,
rebuttal.
I meet people all the time in my church who are trying to manage their diabetes. I've been there when they've gotten the news that they've got to get an amputation. And I think we're hearing from my opponent tonight that it's there.
Okay. Coming from somebody who has type 2 diabetes, if you're at the amputation stage, you haven't been managing it too well.
Interesting.
That means you haven't been managing it. Now, I'm not trying to point the finger. It's a tough life. I've been dealing with for 20 years. I'm legally blind because of it. So this is not me being a hypocrite about this.
What's the finger? Real talk.
Man.
Yeah, my left.
Yeah, this stuff is no
joke.
joke.
It would be my ring finger if I was getting married.
But yeah, Walker's not necessarily totally wrong about that. Let's continue.
Their fault that prices of insulin are being gouged. I don't think it's their fault. I think it's the fault of these pharmaceutical companies. Insulin's been around 100 years. The patent was sold for $1. They're engaged in price gouging, and too many people in Washington think they work for the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, that's Republicans and Democrats. You act like we can't see that shit.
I work for the people of Georgia.
Well, he's in Washington.
Can I finish? I work for the people of Georgia.
Yeah, well, you're in Washington.
And that's why I stand up for them every single
in Washington,
day.
And you're the leader.
Mr. Walker, let's move forward if we can. A follow-up question to you, Senator, in 30 seconds. Georgians need help right now. In your opinion, is the answer another stimulus check, or is there a better option out there to deal with this right now?
We passed the Inflation Reduction Act. He's already told you he would vote against it.
It didn't reduce inflation.
He's already told you that he doesn't believe in capping the cost of prescription drugs for people like my 84-year-old mother.
No,
I don't think they should.
I didn't believe in.
I don't think.
Is it me or is somebody playing dodgeball?
Oh, we know who's playing dodgeball. It's the man in the I'll give him this much in the $6,000 suit.
$6,000 suit. That is a nice suit, but still,
Sure is,
yeah.
man. Sure is.
I think she should have to
Mr.
choose.
Walker, let's let him talk.
Yes.
You'll get a second.
I don't think she should have to choose between buying medicine and buying groceries. And that's why I've stood up for her, and I've stood up for hardworking families every single day. And I've stood against the corporations that are being bad actors. They're seeing record profits in the middle of a pandemic.
And
who exploits a pandemic?
Gentlemen, we need to move on to our next topic in the interest of time. So that's election integrity. Tina, it's all yours.
All right, Buck, thank you. Senator Warnock, this question is for you. You have said the new Georgia voting laws implemented after the 2020 election create many obstacles for underserved communities.
Oh, God,
Yet,
another one?
there was record.
Oh, by the way, Georgia has started early voting, and they've already broken the record from 2020 on how many voters have came out to vote already. Oops, but the Republicans are suppressing the vote.
Oh, okay.
Just that's just a side reference.
Turnout in Georgia in the primary this May. According to research done by the Brennan Center for Justice, the African American vote grew approximately 50% from 2018 to 2022's primaries. Senator, can you explain how the law negatively impacts minority votes? You have 60 seconds, sir.
So I have spent my whole career long before coming to the Senate fighting for voting rights, because I believe that a vote is a kind of prayer for the world we desire for ourselves and for our children. We register people to vote in my church. And in the Senate, I've stood up for democracy.
So what?
Because that's the framework in which we get to fight for all of the things we care about. There is no question that SB 202 makes voting harder, and that is the intent. And the fact that many of our voters are overcoming this hardship doesn't undermine that reality. They've made it harder for folks to use the drop boxes. They've shortened the registration times. Folks are saying, you know, you shouldn't have to, you should be able to get food or water in a line. I think the question is more fundamental than that. Why are the lines so long in certain communities and not others? And so I just want to encourage Georgia voters to keep showing up. Don't let anybody take your voice. Don't let anybody take your vote. It took too much to get here, and I'm honored to represent you in the United States.
I actually agree with Warnock here. Don't let any Democrat shame you into voting for them. I agree. Go vote for who you want to. Don't let nobody shame you into voting for a specific party.
I agree with that.
Senator Warnock, thank you. Mr. Walker, we move to you now. In 2020, Georgia became the epicenter for questions on voter fraud. We'd like to hear your thoughts in 60 seconds. Did President Biden defeat former President Donald Trump in 2020? Again, sir, you have 60 seconds.
Well, first of all, I need to mention that he said that SB 202, really, it made it easier to vote and harder to cheat. And she mentioned that more people turned out for the primary. So you gotten good at in Washington not answering that question, because that was the question she asked you. And did President Biden win? President Biden won, and Senator Warnock won. That's the reason I decided to run, because we need a change in Washington.
Hey, there you go.
Going to stand up.
Did you want to answer the question?
Leaders. We need people that's going to stand up for people in Georgia, because Senator Warnock, he went to Washington, but he forgot about Georgia. And I want to stand for the people of Georgia. He just mentioned he's standing for the people of Georgia, but can he tell me why he voted with Joe Biden 96% of the time if he was standing for Georgia? That tells you that he's for Joe Biden, I'm for Georgia.
Mr. Walker, thank you. Now, before we move on, gentlemen.
I'd like to respond to that.
I will give you that opportunity, sir. I will give you that opportunity, Senator. You have 15 seconds to respond.
It is very clear that my opponent would rather be running against anybody except me. But either me, there are only two people who are going to sit in this seat, either me or my opponent.
Hey, what's going on, PK?
This race is about who's ready to represent the people of Georgia, and I'm thinking about them every single day.
But if he cut from the same cloth at 96% of the time, I'm running he and Joe Biden because they're the same.
Gentlemen,
I would agree with that.
Yeah, ain't much difference.
Gentlemen, we are moving on now. This next question. This is a yes or no response, and this is for both of you, Senator Warnock. Yes or no, regardless of who wins in November, will you accept the outcome?
Yes.
That's a damn lie.
And Mr. Walker, regardless of who wins in November, will you accept the outcome?
Yes.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Buck, over to you.
Thank you, team. We turn now to the topic of abortion. We're going to start with you, Mr. Walker. A week before this debate, a former girlfriend made public accusations saying you paid for an abortion and that you encouraged her to have another. In an ABC News interview this week, you said that the accusations are, quote, all lies. For the voters watching tonight, can you explain the circumstances surrounding these claims? You have 60 seconds.
Well, as I said, that's a lie. And, what most thing I put it in a book. One thing about my life is I've been very transparent. Not like the senator, he's hid things. But at the same time, I said that's a lie. And on abortion, I'm a Christian. I believe in life. And I tell people this, Georgia is a state that respects life, and I'll be a senator that protects life. And I said that was a lie, and I'm not backing down. And when you have Senator Warnock, people that would do anything and say anything for this seat, but I'm not going to back down because this seat is too important to the Georgia people for me to back down right now.
You've been vocally pro-life, supporting a ban on abortions without exceptions. Would you support a complete ban on a national level?
Well, first of all, see, that's not true either. I said I support the heartbeat bill. And I say I support the Georgia heartbeat bill because that's the bill of the people from Governor Kemp. And I said that has exceptions in it. I said I'm a Christian, but I'm also representing the people of Georgia, and that's who I represent. So what the people of Georgia stand for, I'm going to stand with them.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Senator Warnock, you've said repeatedly that the exam room is too small for the patient, her doctor, and the U.S. government. We're asking you to take a clear position right now. Do you believe there should be any limitations on abortion set by the government? And you have 60 seconds.
I think that the women of this country and the women of this state woke up one summer morning and a core protection that they've known for 50 years was taken from them by an extremist Supreme Court. And I stand where I've said I stand in the past, that a patient's room is too narrow.
Actually, all the Supreme Court did was turn them back over to the states. They didn't necessarily take away the rights. If you live in a Republican state, that sucks for you. But they didn't necessarily take abortion rights completely off the table.
Narrow and small and cramped a space for a woman, her doctor, and the United States government. We are witnessing right now what happens when politicians, most of them men, pile into patients' rooms. You get what you're seeing right now. And the women of Georgia deserves a senator who will stand with them. I trust women more than I trust politicians.
May I respond?
Very quickly, Mr. Walker.
It is, and I heard about him. I heard he was a neat talker. But did he not mention that there's a baby in that room as well? And also, did he not mention that he asking,
like I said,
it's getting the taxpayer to pay for it? So he's bringing the government back into the room. So he's not talking about that.
Right.
So when he mentioned that, it's like I've not seen too many pastors that would say that statement.
Mr. Warren, I'll give you a chance to rebut.
I am a pastor. I'm a man of faith. And I have a profound reverence for life and a deep respect for choice. And because I have such a profound reverence for life, it's one of the reasons why I've stood up to address this issue of maternal mortality in our country. We lead all of the Western nations on that front, and Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die, even when they have the insurance and the income. Now, that's something government could actually do something about. And I joined with Marco Rubio of Florida to pass a bill to address maternal mortality. The women of Georgia have a clear choice as we're watching women die. Do you want a senator who wants to control your life, or do you want a senator who wants to save your life? Well, I want to save your life.
Well, what's funny, man, I have to respond to this.
Very quickly.
Because he told me Black Lives Matter. And if you think about it, Senator, in Atlanta, Georgia, there's more Black baby that is aborted than anything. So if Black Lives Matter, why are you not protecting those babies? And instead of aborting those babies, why are you not baptizing those babies?
Senator Warnock, we give you a chance to respond to that.
I think the women of Georgia have a clear choice. He says no exceptions, even in the case of rape, incest, or the life of the mother. I think that's extreme. It's out of touch with Georgia. And I intend to do the work that senators can do.
See, he didn't
Mr.
read
Walker,
the heart, he
we've
didn't
got
read
to
the
move
heartbeat
forward.
bill though. Wait, he didn't
We've
read
got
the
to move
heartbeat
forward, Mr.
bill
Walker.
that there is exceptions for that in the heartbeat bill. So when he
All
makes
right, I'm going to
a
ask you to
statement that
respect
is
Mr. Walker
untrue,
that we need to
and I
move
do
on. Okay,
respect
we've
that,
got
but
a
Senator, you have
lot
to
to
read
get in
that
tonight.
bill.
A follow-up question for you, Senator Warnock. We asked that you take a listen to something that you said at a rally just a couple of weeks ago.
So women, I trust women and their wisdom and their ability to sit with their own doctor. That's right. And if they choose to sit with their pastor and to pray about that and let their own conscience guide them.
No. Now, shout out to Jason Black because he pointed this out, and I think he has a good point. Notice he didn't say sit with her husband. Notice he didn't say sit with her family. Notice he said sit with her pastor about whether or not she needs to have an abortion. Something to think about. And people wonder why black men are leaving the church like that.
I think black men are completely gone from the church. The only ones that are left is the simps.
Hey, watch it. I'm still in there.
I'm there too. Real talk. I'm still there.
You're not, but to be fair, you're not necessarily wrong.
No, that's why I'm cool about it.
And in some of the mega churches, you're not wrong. Because I come from a background. If you don't have a theologian degree, I won't even walk in your church. I've always dealt with men who were about that life. I also don't rock in the churches. I have a problem with churches that have ATMs in there.
Of course, good God.
I'm like, okay, there's a part in the Bible where Jesus walked into the temple and just went ham, just started turning the tables over. It's like, y'all done made my father's house a den of thieves. Get out. Like Jesus looks down on that kind of stuff. Jesus was not the punk people said he was. If you actually read the Bible, Jesus was no pushover. Let's continue with this.
Even God gave us a choice. That's right, Jimmy.
Even God gave us a choice. Can you clarify what you meant by that? You have 30 seconds.
Oh, I think it's self-explanatory. God gave us a choice. And I respect
I can't help it.
The right of women to make a decision. These are medical decisions. They're deeply personal. Women find themselves in a range of circumstances.
You see that, Mace?
This issue has been.
I remember that episode.
We're witnessing right now the chaos that ensues as a result of that. And women right now.
Shout out to Arthur Stone for giving me this idea.
Miscarriage in some cases. Are wondering what will happen and how will they have to explain that. I think that's deeply problematic. There are enough politicians piling into the rooms of patients, and I don't plan to join them.
But just to clarify, in your opinion, God gave us a choice in regards to abortion.
It is apparent that God has given us a range of choices.
Oh my God!
And the people of Georgia have a choice right now.
Let me say hello to the beautiful Corrine in the building.
May I have
hey, Corrine.
Toya's in the building. Hey, sweetheart.
Because he's correct. God gave us a choice. But also within
we're going over the Walker Warnock debate.
In the Bible, it says, I give you a choice. Just like Adam and Eve had a choice, but they chose death.
Very quick.
Let me see all the beautiful women in the chat.
Arrogate to politicians more power than God has.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. We're going to have to move on to our next topic, okay?
This is crazy.
Tina?
Okay. We are moving on, gentlemen, on the next topic, and it is about student loans. We turn to Christian Dent, a college student and Nexstar News Nation viewer from Locust Grove, Georgia.
As a college student at the University of Georgia, me and my peers are often faced with confronting the rising costs that come with obtaining a college degree. In the United States Senate, will you support further forgiveness of student loan debt? And if so, how will you implement it in the United States Senate on a federal level?
Oh, just a little side note about student loan debt. Did you know the reason why you can't file bankruptcy on your student loans because of a little bill that was brought to you by your current president, Joe Biden.
Right, JoJo in the house, baby.
I'm just saying, there's something to think about when you're thinking about, for those of you who have to deal with student loan debt.
Our thanks to Christian for that question. Senator Warnock, your answer, please, in 60 seconds.
I wouldn't be standing here tonight if it
It's a
weren't
shame. That's a waste
for
right there.
low
What a
interest
fine
student
looking
loans
woman right there, bro.
and Pell Grants. And in the years since I've graduated, that path has gotten harder. I ran into a couple on a flight, and they wrote a note for me. They were with their 1-year-old son. They said, whatever you do, please do something about this student debt. The mother said, I borrowed $35,000. I paid back $20,000. I still owe $30,000. And that's why I pushed the president to do student debt relief. He did $10,000, and with my urging, he did $20,000 for folks with Pell Grants. I think it was the right move. It will spur entrepreneurship, home ownership. It helps kids in technical schools and vocational schools, not just four-year colleges. But we need reform. We shouldn't be doing this again 10 years from now. And I'm working right now on the kind of reform we need, because college is outpacing the price of everything else in our economy.
A follow-up for you, sir. Why do you believe this should be done through executive action instead of Congress? And also, how would this be funded? You have 30 seconds.
The president has already moved to do student debt relief. And there's additional.
I do give her credit. She's dressed like a lady.
Yeah, she looks great.
Mm-hmm.
And is that the way most women like in her status dress down in the South?
I'm not sure. I know Tia Marley need to take some notes.
Yeah. Tell you, this woman's dressed tremendous.
Because she on Instagram thirst trapping.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. As far as I'm concerned, Corey Hardrick, I'm like, bro, you need to cut your losses and just get a younger version.
Incredible, man.
Because
younger version. You're right about that.
I'm not. Look, I'm not gonna lie. Tia is still hot, but she's 44 years old, thirst trapping on Instagram like she just turned 18, and I'm just like, it's Corey needs to. I understand it hurts. That's the mother of his children, but he need to cut his losses. But let's continue with this debate.
Folks like me, who, when they got student loans, were Pell Grant eligible. But there's no question we need reform in the system so that we can get the cost of college underway. We don't find ourselves here again. And that's my position. Thank you.
Senator Warnock, thank you. Mr. Walker, to repeat Christian's question, will you support further forgiveness of student loan debt? And if so, how would you implement it?
Well, first of all, you can see that.
60 seconds, sir. I apologize.
Yes, first of all, you can see that Senator Warnock has gotten good at being in Washington, because you asked the question, why did Congress not do it instead of the president doing an executive order, which is what should have been done. And as I was traveling around the state of Georgia, I talked to people. Some people wanted to go to college, they couldn't. So they ended up going and working on father's farm. Some military wanted to go to college, they didn't. So he went to the military, may have lost an arm. So this is not right. Georgia people say it's not right. They said it's unfair. First of all, how can you transfer someone debt who owe it to someone that don't owe it? And also, Senator Warnock brags about making $400 billion that now the taxpayer, all you in the audience, got to pay for. You got to pay that debt. And I didn't co-sign for anyone's loan. I hope no one out here co-signed for anyone's loan, because I didn't co-sign for anyone's loan. And it's not right, it's not fair.
Mr. Walker, we're continuing with a follow-up for you now, Mr. Walker. College tuition, it skyrocketed 175% over the past 20 years. What will you do to stem the cost of higher education going forward?
Well, first
you
of
have
all,
30 seconds.
First of all, what you should do is get rid of federal funding of any college that raised their costs. Get rid of federal funding of any college that raised their costs. That's the first thing that you should do.
So that is what you would do.
Yeah,
We're asking what you would do.
Well, any college that raised their costs, I get rid of any federal funding that they're going to get.
Thank you.
You know,
We're moving on.
I find it interesting that folks are
Senator
offended
Warnock,
by.
Senator Warnock,
Yes,
I'm going to give you this one. I'm going to
Thank
give you a
you.
pass for 15 seconds.
I will be very brief, I promise.
Very brief.
It's interesting to me that folks who have been crying
14,
about
I'm
the
just
student debt relief haven't said anything about multi-billionaire corporate entities who've gotten PPP loans. I wonder why Mr.
We're going to move on. We're moving on. Thank you. Thank you, Senator Warnock. Your time is up. Mr. Walker, we are moving on.
Yes,
We're going to move on to minimum wage, gentlemen. We have a
Yes.
lot to get through
Yes.
tonight. We've made that clear at the top of the hour. So
Yes.
let's get as many questions as we can in, because Georgia voters want to know where you stand on these issues. They have to make a decision. Let them know tonight. Buck?
Thank you, Tina. Now, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, 14% of Georgians live in poverty. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, a number that has not increased.
Yep, I call it the joke wage because nobody can actually live off that shit.
Since 2009. Let's do this by a simple showing of hands. Raise your hand if you support a federal minimum wage. Okay, Mr. Walker, you did not raise your hand, so I'd like to ask.
Side note, notice neither one of them raised their hand.
Of course.
Ask you, first of all, why not, and what would you do to help struggling Georgians?
Well, when you say a federal, I think right now, and he said that I want the federal government. No, he wants the federal government to run your life. Right now, I think you have to work with different corporations and see just where they can pay. There are some companies right now, and he should know this, after getting the All-Star game moved out of Atlanta, they destroyed a lot of small businesses. So those small businesses couldn't pay $15, $20 an hour. So they have to pay what they're capable of paying. So to mandate a federal fee that they have to pay hourly wage, no, I couldn't approve that.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Senator Warnock, you did not raise your hand, so why not, and what would you do to help struggling Georgians?
I believe in the dignity of work, and I believe in the dignity of workers.
Dodgeball.
I watched my dad work really hard to take care of his family. And I've seen what we call essential workers, these folks who are on the front line, stand up for us in the midst of the pandemic. We call them essential workers. They deserve an essential wage and essential benefits. In other words, workers deserve to participate in the prosperity that they are creating for others. And so I've been a part of this conversation around the minimum wage. I think people need a livable wage. And some of that is being addressed right now in this strong labor market. So I'm willing to work with folks in the corporate community as well as the labor community to figure out how we get to a good place. But there's no question, people deserve to participate in the prosperity that they're creating for others. They deserve a livable wage, and they deserve benefits.
Thank you, Senator Warnock. We're going to move to our next topic. Tina?
And that topic is crime and violence. In June, Congress passed the first bipartisan legislation to combat gun violence in 30 years. According to a Pew Research poll released in July, 78% of Americans think the new gun law will do little or nothing to reduce gun violence. Senator Warnock, I turn to you first. As the number of shootings in Georgia and across the nation continue to rise, what should be done? What should the next step be to solve this issue? You have to answer this question, sir, and I give you 1 minute.
Well, I'm glad that we finally passed the first gun safety law in 30 years. And we did that on a bipartisan basis. I believe that this law will indeed save lives. And I'd like to see us work and see what we can achieve beyond that on a bipartisan basis. My heart goes out when I see the kinds of tragedies that we're witnessing all across our state, all across our country. And it's the reason why I have passed legislation to support law enforcement. I passed the largest investment in the COPS program in a decade. I introduced legislation called Invest to Protect that's endorsed by the sheriffs of Burke County and Scriven County because it supports some of our smaller law enforcement entities. So we got to stand up with law enforcement, but we've also got to create opportunity.
Senator Warnock, thank you. Mr. Walker, we're posing the same question to you, sir. In 1 minute, what should the next step be to solve gun violence?
Well, first of all, any law or bill passed that affect anyone's Second Amendment, I'm not going to stand for and I won't support. But third, to hear Senator Warnock talks about supporting law enforcement is sad because he's called them names. And because of the name calling he's done, the morale is down, recruitment is down, only because of what he's done. He's empowered criminals to think they're better than the police. And because he believes in no cash bail, is releasing prisoners, he don't protect the border. Fentanyl is coming to this country and also into Atlanta. 70% of the drugs coming from the border goes to Atlanta, Georgia. And he talks about the police. I have more sheriffs that has endorsed me than anyone running in Georgia right now. And I even have some sheriffs here. They've endorsed me because they know I have their back. They're going to have my back. So to listen to him say that,
debate.
Mr. Walker, thank you. I have a follow-up now for both of you.
I think I ought to be able to respond to that.
I will give you the opportunity, 15 seconds to respond, Senator Warnock.
We will see time and time again tonight, as we've already seen, that my opponent has a problem with the truth. And just because he said something doesn't mean it's true. I have supported our police officers. I've called them and I've prayed with their families, like those officers lost in Cobb County when they were killed, doing what police officers routinely do. You can support police officers, as I've done, through the COPS program, through the Invest to Protect program, while at the same time holding police officers, like all professions, accountable. One thing I have not done, I've never pretended to be a police officer, and I've never threatened a shootout with the police.
Well, and now I have to respond to that.
We are moving on,
I have
gentlemen.
to respond to that. And you know what's so funny? I am work with many police officers, and at the same time,
Mr. Walker, Mr. Walker,
No.
Mr. Walker,
When he
Mr.
said a
Walker,
problem with
excuse
the
me,
truth-
Mr. Walker.
Now, let me clarify something because I have talked to Charles about this. Officer Charles that's been in the chat. I did talk to him about this behind the scenes. He is holding a real badge. It's not the equivalent of a sheriff's badge, but it is a real badge.
The citizen's badge?
Yeah, it's like one of them trophy badge, you get the kids or something.
Yeah, the citizen.
But it's an honorary badge. It is a real badge. It's not a fake badge because there's a lot of stories. Oh, he put up a fake badge. No, it's not a fake badge. It's a real badge. It is not as prestigious as a real sheriff's badge, but it's a real badge that's been certified. Let's continue.
When
Please,
he said a problem
out of
with
respect,
the truth is
I need
here.
to let you know, Mr.
Yes.
Walker, you are very well aware of the rules tonight.
Yes.
And you have a prop.
Yes.
That is not allowed, sir. I
Yes.
ask you to put
He
that prop
sounds
away.
white.
Well, it's not a problem. This is real. And he said, I have a problem. I never
It
worked
is
with law
considered a
enforcement.
prop, Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
You're very well aware of the rules, aren't you?
Well,
And
Are
he
you
still
aware
wanted
of
to
the
debate.
rules?
Look at her trying to
Let's
talk
talk
down
about
to
the
him.
truth.
Thank you for putting that
Yes.
prop away. And
Typical black
as a
man.
matter of fact, we still have a lot to get to, and we are not going to continue this. We're going to follow up with a question, and this is according to the CDC. Homicide is the leading cause of death for African American youth. Mr. Walker, in 30 seconds, why do you believe this is happening, and what would you do to stop it?
Well, what I would do is hold people accountable, which is Senator Warnock not doing. Believing in no cash bail, no accountability, that is a problem. People must be accountable for their action. And the truth lies with Senator Warnock because he said he was going to Washington to represent Georgia. He went to Washington to represent Joe Biden. That's the reason we're in the mess we're in today, because he represents Joe Biden and not the truth for Georgia.
Senator Warren.
Oh, gosh.
Warnock, this follow-up for you. Same question. What do you believe homicides among African American youth is growing? Why are those homicides growing, sir? And how do we stop it?
Well, it's heartbreaking. And I've seen this up close as a pastor. I've presided over some of these funerals. I've met with young people. And we have to have rules and laws in the society, which I support and I've invested in as a legislator. At the same time, we have to create opportunity. There's no sickness like the loss of hope. When people lose hope, when they doubt that their life can be any longer or that they can dream of something bigger than the street they live on, a lot of things can happen. I grew up in one of those neighborhoods, but I had a nurturing family and I benefited from good federal public policy, like the Head Start program, like Upward Bound, like Pell Grants and low interest student loans. And to invest in our children is to invest in our best resource.
Senator Warnock, thank you. We are moving on, gentlemen, to the next question. And this topic is about personal integrity. Buck?
We're going to shift gears a little bit here. Senator Warnock, in 2020, you tweeted this: unemployment benefits have expired, rent is due, and many Georgia families are at risk of eviction. My opponents are supposed to be serving the people in Washington, but they are clearly concerned with their own interests. Well, recent published reports talk about a property that your church owns, Columbia Towers at MLK Village in Atlanta. It's a home for the disadvantaged. At least a dozen lawsuits have been filed by residents evicted for not being able to pay their rent. Some of the outstanding balances are less than $30.
Oops.
As someone who receives more than $7,000 a month for a housing allowance from Ebenezer Baptist Church, how do you explain this to Georgia voters who are struggling currently to make ends meet?
Well, let me say that serving in the United States Senate and continuing to serve my church is the honor of my life. And it gives me a lens through which to do the work that I'm doing. And here's why you know I'm running against a desperate candidate. Anytime a candidate would stoop to the level of trying to sully the name, he and his allies, to sully the name of Martin Luther King Jr.'s church and John Lewis's church, you know that's a desperate candidate. Let me tell you about my church. My church is a Matthew 25 church. We spend every week, every day feeding the hungry and the homeless. They know that those false charges that they've created are not true. We stand up for poor people every single day, and I ran for the Senate to do at a policy level what we do at a local level every single day. I'm not going to be distracted by him and his allies. My people know the truth. They know the work we do every single day, and I couldn't be proud
Can't make
of
this
them.
stuff up, can you,
Proud to
Mace?
represent
Nope.
the Senate and proud to serve Ebenezer Baptist Church.
So just to clarify, your position is that the allegations in these lawsuits are not true?
I am saying that it is very obvious that my opponent and his allies are busy trying to sully Ebenezer Baptist Church.
Now you see the problem with the truth.
Switching gears a little bit here, sir. Your ex-wife filed a lawsuit asking for increased child support, saying that she had to pay for child care on days that your duties as a senator interfered with your parenting time, and citing significant increases in your income. In 30 seconds, what is your response to that lawsuit?
Listen, I went through a divorce, like a lot of people. And while that was a painful period, what came out of that was two amazing children that I just talked to before I came on this stage. And my children know that I am with them and for them, and that I support them in every single way that a father does.
Thank you, Senator Warnock. Now to you, Mr. Walker. Recent ads have highlighted allegations of past domestic violence. They've raised questions about how transparent you've been as far as your resume. In 1 minute, how do you respond to voters who question your integrity, both personally and professionally?
First of all, I've been very transparent, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. And I say I had a mental problem, and I'll be a champion for mental health, because so many people suffer from mental health. But to have people like Senator Warnock that demonize mental health, when I want to tell everyone out there, you can get help, don't listen to.
You got to give the man credit. He came out and was upfront with the fact he had mental problems.
That's true.
And believe it or not, he still has a chance to win this election based on his performance so far.
Senator Warnock, his people, you can get help. All you got to do is ask. All you got to do is ask. But the problem with the truth, you just saw it. You just saw it, because he won't answer that about evicting the people from the church. And I told him I will pay that. I'll pay their salary. You're evicting them right now during these hard times.
We have not evicted. We have not evicted those
I
tenants.
didn't write the article.
You're.
I didn't write the article. And most of the people out there still my
I'm okay with the discussion. If you start talking over each other, we have to move forward.
We have not evicted the tenants. And he should take that money and pay it back to the veterans that he.
This is one of the reasons why I'm playing this debate, because I already know mainstream media is not going to show you this kind of stuff.
No.
They're not going to show you this part of the debate. That's why I'm playing it.
Exploited while pretending to run.
Too. And see, you can tell that he's not desperate, because if he had read in that thing, he would have saw that I had nothing to do with that. But he is so desperate right now, and he really wants that seat. He's now telling you, I didn't evict anyone. It is written in the paper. I didn't do this. Well, Senator, you did. And it's okay to speak the truth. Do not bear false witness, Senator. Do not bear false witness.
Oh, Mr. Walker, to keep this moving, I want to follow up with you. You have been very open on your, Senator Warnock, we need to move forward here. You have been very open about your struggles with mental illness, and you even wrote a book about your diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder. We recently asked if you were still receiving treatment, and this is what you had to say.
No, that's all done. And you don't need to. And that's why I tell people, I think one thing I told people is, I've been open about it, and I was open about it, 14 years ago.
Mr. Walker, in 30 seconds, can you clarify this? Are you saying you no longer have dissociative identity disorder, or is this something that you continue to this day to manage?
No, you don't have to have treatment for it. And I encourage people to continue to talk to people. I talk to my pastors. And I continue to get help if I need help, but I don't need any help. I'm doing well. But that's the reason why I tell anyone out there that is suffering from any type of mental illness, you can get help. All you got to do is ask. And I will always be a champion for mental health.
And just to clarify, how can Georgia voters, though, be assured that this will not impact your ability to lead if elected?
Because I'm ready to lead today. I'm
I
ready
agree
to
with
vote
that.
with Georgia voters, whereas Senator Warnock has voted with Joe Biden 96% of the time. I'm ready to vote with the Georgia voters today.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move on to our next topic. Tina?
And that topic, gentlemen, is health insurance. Georgia is one of 12 states that have not accepted federal funding to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. Mr. Walker, with more than 1.5 million Georgians uninsured, in 1 minute, is it time for the federal government to step in to ensure all Georgians have access to health care?
Well, right now, people have coverage for health care. It's according to what type of coverage do you want? Because if you have an able-bodied job, you're going to have health care. But everyone else have health care is the type of health care you're going to get. And I think that is the problem. And what Senator Warnock wants you to do is depend on the government. What I want you to do is get off the government health care and get on the health care he's got to get you a better health care. So that's what I'm trying to do, to make you independent.
Actually, for the record, I do have to correct him. He's on the government plan. Technically, Senator Warnock is on the government health care plan. Just saying, the government pays for his health care. So technically, it's a government health care plan. We pay for his health care
rather than dependent.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Senator Warnock, you have 1 minute. You've vowed to close the Medicaid gap by expanding access coverage in the Affordable Care Act marketplace. So this comes with a $50 billion price tag, the national debt already at an all-time high. Where is this money coming from? You have 60 seconds, sir.
This is not a theoretical issue for me. When I think about healthcare, I think about Lori Davis, a trauma nurse in Covington, Georgia, who spent her career taking care of people. And then she got sick and she had to give up that job. And as she got sicker and sicker, she found herself without health care. She was one of the 600,000 Georgians in the Medicaid gap. She died for lack of health care. And so I ran saying that I would fight to expand Medicaid. Georgia needs to expand Medicaid. It costs us more not to expand. What we're doing right now is we're subsidizing health care in other states. Meanwhile, we've seen 10 hospitals in this state close, 10. And the Atlanta Medical Center, right down the street from my church, where I visit my members, has announced that it's going to close. And so Georgia needs a senator who believes, like I do, that healthcare is a human right. And I will continue to fight until the working class people, by the way, the folks who don't have healthcare, they work every single day. The folks who are in the gap,
And I believe in that
the folks,
extension of
let me
healthcare.
finish. The
And your
folks,
time was
the
up,
folks who are
Senator.
in the gap, the folks who are in the gap are the working poor.
We are moving
Well,
on, Senator
And I
Warnock.
believe in healthcare, but he didn't mention
Listen,
that he
Mr.
got,
Walker, if I can get your
Yes.
attention, please. In just a few weeks, Wellstar will
Yes.
close its doors. This is Atlanta Medical Center, which primarily serves patients in lower income and minority communities. Hospitals nationwide are dealing with nursing shortages, doctor shortages in the wake of the pandemic. Mr. Walker, what measures can Congress enact to ensure everyone has access to hospitals and doctors? You have 30 seconds, sir.
Well, first of all, Senator Warnock was correct that he believed in working with people, but he didn't do it because Governor Kemp has a plan that would have been a very good plan. But he stood back while Biden destroyed the plan. And he's talking about he believes in the extension of it. He stood back. Well, what the people can be assured of is I'm willing to meet with hospital administrators, meet with people rather than writing a letter, because Senator Warnock waited till they made the decision and wrote a letter. And I said, they don't need a pen pal, they need solutions.
We are moving on now. Senator Warnock, that same question to you, sir. What measures can Congress enact to ensure everyone has access to hospitals and doctors? You have 30 seconds.
Well, clearly he doesn't have a solution.
Well,
he
I
said-
said I'll meet with administrators. That's a solution.
said-
You didn't
Y'all hit the Cash App, support the show with his content.
His solution is to meet. My solution is to pass legislation, which I've done. I got $4 billion in the American Rescue Plan to help the non-expansion states to do what they should have done to expand. They left that money on the table. Georgia left 600,000 Georgians in the Medicaid gap. And so I'm going to keep standing up because people are literally dying for lack of health care. Dr. King said that of all the injustices, inequality in healthcare is the most shocking and the most inhumane. I agree with Dr. King.
Thank you, Senator Warnock. Buck, now the next topic.
Thank you, Tina. We're going to talk about foreign policy now. Russian President Vladimir Putin has threatened to use nuclear weapons in the conflict with Ukraine, prompting President Biden to claim that we are on the verge of Armageddon. Senator Warnock, if nuclear weapons are used, how should the United States respond? You have 60 seconds.
Well, first of all, I'm glad that we are standing up to Putin's aggression. And we have to continue to stand up, which is why I stood up to the Biden administration when it suggested that we should close the Savannah Combat Readiness Training Center. I told the president that was the exact wrong thing to do at the exact wrong time. And I'm glad that I was able to stand up with Congressman Buddy Carter and others. And we kept that training center open. I've seen up close what those service members do. They are the tip of the spear. And we have to make sure that our service members know that we have their back. We have to strengthen our allies and the NATO alliance as we've done and make sure we stand up to Russian aggression. Nothing could be more important.
AB, I got to take my medicine. I'll be right back.
If nuclear weapons are used, how should the U.S. respond? You have 60
Well, first of all, he talked about standing up. You didn't stand up to Chuck Schumer when you could have got a helicopter company here of almost $1 billion. You let it go to New York. You didn't stand up then. You didn't stand up to Biden when he left American people and had 13 military soldiers killed in Afghanistan. You didn't stand up then. So what we can do is Putin is a bully. And the way you beat a bully, you show strength. Well, Senator Warnock say he stood up. He not stood up to Biden. If he was standing up, he wouldn't have voted with him 96% of the time, which gave us an open border, which gave us high inflation, which gave us crime in the streets. And he talking about standing up. He didn't stand up. He have laid down every time it came around. And you know that, Senator.
It is evident that he has a point that he tries to make time and time again. I've stood up to the Biden administration so that they could keep open this Combat Training Readiness Center, stood with our congressional delegation to do that. I've worked across the aisle time and time to get good things done for the people of Georgia. I worked with a senator from Texas to build out I-14. I work with a Republican senator from Alabama to help Georgia farmers get their products to market. I will work with anyone and stand up against anybody I need to stand up against to get good things done for Georgia. I work for the people of Georgia.
We need to move forward to our next topic, gentlemen. Our time is running short. Both of you have strong backing from your respective parties. Senator Warnock, a simple yes or no here. You will have a chance to explain, but I'd like a simple yes or no. Would you support President Biden running for a second term in 2024?
All right, here we go, folks.
I've not spent a minute thinking about what politicians should run for what in 2024.
Is that a yes or a no?
Now watch the difference between his answer and Herschel Walker's answer.
The answer is I have not, and maybe this is difficult. Maybe this is difficult for people to understand because that's how politicians think. I think that part of the problem with our politics right now is that it's become too much about the politicians. You're asking me who's going to run in 24? The people of Georgia get to decide who's going to be their senator in 3 days, Monday. And I hope they'll show up and vote. And I'd be honored to represent them in the Senate.
You haven't thought about it. If you can think about it now, in 2024, the president will turn 82 years old. Are you concerned about his physical and his mental fitness at that time? You have 30 seconds.
The people of Georgia hired me to represent them regardless of who's in the White House. I'm honored to do that job every single day. My dad said, if somebody hires you to do a job, do the job they hired you to do. They didn't hire me to be a pundit. And I'm working every single day for hardworking families in Georgia, for our women, for our workers, and for kids like me growing up in places like Caton Homes.
Mr. Walker, former President Trump is also considering a run for the White House in 2024. If you can give me a simple yes or no answer, and we'll give you time to explain as well. Would you support a Trump 2024 run?
Yes, I would.
See the difference? Ask one of that question, dodgeball for what, 2 or 3 minutes? Ask Walker that question, a simple yes. What's hard about a yes or no question? I'm just saying.
And let me tell you, President Trump is my friend. Has nothing to do with that. He's my friend. I won't leave my allies, which is what Senator Warnock and Joe Biden did in Afghanistan. They left their allies. And right now on a foreign stage, a lot of these people don't trust us no more. They don't trust us to be strong anymore. So they're waiting to see who's going to stand up, who's going to trust. And they have no one to trust right now because I said, President Trump is my friend and he won't stand up with Biden when yet he's voted with him 96% of the time. Let's be real.
Mr. Walker, are you concerned about the ongoing legal investigations around the country and including here in Georgia? You have 30 seconds.
Well, first of all, I would hope that Senator Warnock, he and myself being people of color, would want the scales of justice to not have a hand on it. We want the Lady Justice to be blind, but in this instance here, Lady Justice is not blind. And I said, right now, with everything that is going on, what I like to do is get to what's important. What's important is protecting the border. What's important is protecting people on the street. What's important is getting this inflation down, not what's going on there in Washington, talking about whether President Trump is guilty or not guilty. What I want to do is see due process, which is what I hope Senator Warnock and myself would love to see.
Changing topics now, we're going to move forward just to give you guys both an update that you may want to know, although the news is not great if you're a Braves fan. Right now, they're in the top of the 9th inning, Game 3, National League Division Series, down 9-1 to the Phillies. Not a great night for the Braves. Just a few weeks ago, the World Series champs, though, they did visit the White House. Their visit sparked a renewed debate about the team's name and their signature tomahawk chop. Mr. Walker, do you believe the Braves should rethink their name, their logo, or their signature cheer? You have 30 seconds.
Not at all. You know, right now, we have too many other things to be concerned about. We have people dying on the streets in Atlanta, around the country. We have people living paycheck to paycheck, can't afford food to put on their table, can't afford gas. We have Putin out there. We have China out there. We can't be concerned about whether the Braves going to change their name. We need to be concerned about saving this country. We need to be concerned about saving the Georgia people. We need to be concerned about giving people a right to live the liberties and freedoms that the Constitution of the United States guarantees them to have.
Senator Warnock, the same question to you. In regards to the Braves, do you think they should rethink their name, their logo, or their signature cheer?
Well, first of all, I'm praying for the Braves right about now. They've got a ways to go here. Listen, the management of the Braves is meeting with our tribes, and they're having a conversation about this. And I know the folks over at the Braves organization, and I trust that they and the tribes that they're talking to will come to a place that makes sense for all involved.
Senator Warnock, we're going to go ahead and continue. We want to get a few more questions in tonight. Senator Warnock, some of your
What would you
Senate
goddamn
colleagues
do?
have
Leave the
called for
Braves
expanding the
logo
number of
alone.
seats on the Supreme Court. In 15 seconds, quickly, sir, would you
The
support
hell
this?
is wrong with Georgia?
What I support,
Expanding
listen,
the seats on the Supreme Court.
I think that my job as a senator is to protect the rights of ordinary citizens. And for the first time, perhaps in my lifetime, we've seen those rights contract rather than expand, whether we're talking about the reproductive rights of women or voting rights. And I'm going to do everything I can to protect the rights of the citizens of Georgia.
Thank you, Senator Warnock. Mr. Walker, would you support expanding the number of seats on the Supreme Court? In 15 seconds, sir.
Yes, when you get in Washington, you have to become a leader. Being a leader, you have to make tough decisions. And you see on that answer there, he really didn't give you an answer. So my answer is no. I wouldn't know.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now we have reached the point for final moments of this debate, a chance for your closing remarks. You have 60 seconds.
Each have 60 seconds to answer, and Senator Warnock, you have the floor first.
Well, thank you so very much, Georgia. It's wonderful to be here. Listen, in this state, we have nearly 11 million people, and only 2 people get to represent us in the United States Senate, just 2. And when I think about that, it is an awesome responsibility, one that humbles me and inspires me to work as hard as I can for hardworking families every single day. And I've worked with Democrats and Republicans in order to do that work. These are difficult times. These are dark times. But the scripture says that the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness overcometh it not. I'm honored to represent you in the Senate. I hope that you'll show up to vote early beginning Monday. I'd be honored to have your vote. God bless you. Keep the faith.
Mr. Walker, your turn for closing statements, and you have 60 seconds as well.
For those of you who are concerned about voting for me, a non-politician, I want you to think about the damage politicians like Joe Biden and Raphael Warnock have done to this country. I want you to think about Raphael Warnock, what he said today. And I said he was going to try to give you some smooth talk and tell you what's happening. What's happening is this country is hurting. What's happening is we need leaders. So what I want to say to you, Senator Warnock, is I want to thank you. I want to thank you for this. But at the same time, I want to say Georgia needs leaders. They need leaders that's going to stand up for them. So let's think about if we give Senator Warnock 6 more years, think of what this country will become. I'm not sure if we can make up for that.
Gentlemen,
so I said vote for Herschel Walker.
Thank you both, gentlemen. That's going to conclude our debate for this evening. Before we leave tonight, though, we want to remind voters.
All right, that's enough of that. Yeah, that's why when I got done watching all that, I was like, Herschel Walker won that debate. No,
he sure did.
No, he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but he won that debate.
Because Warnock asked a lot of questions.
He was playing dodgeball. That's why.
Sure
shout out
was.
to Art New Star. That's where I got the GIF idea from. That's where I got the tap dancing idea from.
I know that was funny. That Daffy Duck, man. The only thing missing from that was the music, man. I was falling on the floor already, man. That shit. I think the difference is we all know Herschel, no pun intended, been hit in the head a few more times. That's why he stutters like he does.
Yeah.
Being a football player. The other guy is a liar, and he's not a deep liar, but he doesn't do enough.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't do enough for the state of Georgia. And Georgia's small, only 11 million people.
I
Wow.
shot you in New York, so yeah, that would be small to you.
In Los Angeles, 24 mil. In Chicago, I think 18 mil. Yeah, Chicago, for Atlanta, it's small. Damn.
Atlanta
Now,
got a big ass.
do you know Atlanta well?
Not really. I've been through Atlanta.
Yeah, because I heard a lot of shit has changed there for the worse.
No, I haven't been to Atlanta recently, but last time I went through there, I was like, "Does the downtown ever end?" I was like, "Good lord, that downtown like 20 miles long."
Oh, they want to be like here in New York, man. Our downtown is about, see. Yeah, Atlanta must be longer than because our downtown only goes to the Brooklyn Bridge, and that ain't that far in Manhattan. That's like a good, probably like, I'm trying to think, 20 blocks, 10 miles. So.
Yeah, but yeah, I wanted to play those debates because I played a little bit more important. I played the first debate, the Stacey Abrams debate, because I was talking to a lot of brothers said they hadn't seen it, and I had happened to see it, came across it on YouTube. I was like, well, let me go through it.
She looks evil, bro.
Yep.
Stacey Abrams, she's the type that, and I heard, and I think this is insane, bro, that all the judges in Cobb County are black women. And I heard that they give the black brothers longer sentences when they do the white guys there. Doesn't
I believe
surprise
it.
me. Doesn't surprise me at all, man.
Unfortunately, but
I had a group of women in my room yesterday. I couldn't believe it. And they want to bring black men and black women together. And they keep inside, me, you keeping 100, that's never going to happen again.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh, by the
by
way, I heard about Stacey. Apparently, Oprah is supposed to be doing a campaign, and Obama is supposed to be doing campaign stops for Stacey Abrams.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay, even more reason for black men not to vote for Stacey Abrams.
I blame Oprah a hell of a lot for this divide between us and the women.
I agree. I agree. She spent many years promoting black men ain't shit.
Then to hear that Blob today talk about those African girls that she adopted graduating from college, I'm like, that's the difference between black men and black women. What is the big deal about graduating from college, bro? I mean, good, that's a personal achievement, but a lot of black men don't care.
No, not as far as relationship. And it's not that we don't appreciate intelligent black women, it's that some of these heifers with degrees act like they're still in the 5th grade.
Yes. Yes, I do agree with that.
It's not about women being smart at all. It's that some of these heifers that claim they have I have this degree, that degree. Some of them have law degrees.
Act like
they're still in the 5th grade. And I'm like, okay, we don't respect men that do that. Why do you think we're gonna respect a woman that does it?
Exactly. All we care about is how good you look. Can you cook?
Yep.
Can you be there for the man in rough evenings, a tough day at work, getting screamed at by the white master? Can you deal with that? Do you have bath water ready for me to take a hot bath? Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what? These women are lost, bro. That's the bottom line. And there's no coming back. Because they're not going to change. They're going to stay stubborn. They're still going to believe that we ain't worth shit. So
yeah, that's one of the reasons. You mentioned Tiffany Cross and what's her name, Joanne Reed, and it's like I don't watch them. They did, I know what they are. Joanne Reed tried to call anybody to talk about reparation, talking about their Russian bots. I'm like, oh, okay. You want to play that game? She's an immigrant. I'm like, oh, you want to play that game? Okay.
Oh, she's Caribbean, right, Joey?
Yeah, I think she's Caribbean. I forget what country she's from, but yeah. Oh, man, PK, what's going on, PK? PK, you there? Oh, okay. I'll let him get his stuff together. But yeah, enjoy everybody. Go ahead. What are you gonna say, Mace?
No, I just look at those women. I was like, oh, where all this venom comes from, and now I know where the venom comes.
Yeah, it's complicated. It comes from the slave plantation. It has its origins in the slave plantation. It's very complicated.
Oh, ain't those
Actually, it goes back before that. Goes to Doors of the Trade.
Oh, the Caribbean and African women, who I heard now is divesting like hell now out there. Ain't they?
Really?
Ain't there? Yeah. Ain't these women colonized?
Well, United States is not the only place to colonize. There was
Oh, Britain didn't Britain colonize?
Yep. You got to remember, Spain came over here first. Spain and Portugal came over here first, and they actually did a significant damage. They killed the indigenous people in the millions. So it's not wasn't just the British and our enslavement. It started long before then. In fact, one of the reasons they came over and got Africans is because they were killing the indigenous in the millions, but because of the kind of work they were doing out in the sun and growing stuff.
Unbelievable. It's just crazy how our race has spiraled into oblivion and it's not coming back.
Well, it may come back. It's not going to be in the form we think it is. But who knows? I do know one thing. Elections. Well, I was going to say next month, but actually, it's in a couple of weeks.
It's like in a week and a half.
Let's see. Yeah. It's going to be got this week, then you got the next week. We have 2 or 3 weeks. It's like in the second week of November, November 8th.
Okay. Definitely.
But yeah, I wanted people to get a good look at Stacey Abrams, and what she's actually on.
That's an evil black woman, bro. And I have a little hunch why she's that way. I bet you when she was in college and early 20s, and that was during the time of, when black people used to connect.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you no niggas were fucking with her. Either that.
Well, the rumor is she's rainbow.
Yeah. I think the reason why she's that way because men turned her off too much. I mean, I had a group yesterday, bro, that I didn't know these women were. I'm just assuming. I don't think all of them, but I'm looking. I went into the leader's room tonight, and I'm like, oh, rainbow baseball cap. I just kept my mouth shut, bro.
You good, PK?
Paid my respects and came up to you, bro. Oh man, you know what? I can say this in here, and it may make me look less than who I am. But I think, I know this is going to sound surprising coming from my mouth. I think people should just be who they are. If you're rainbow, you're rainbow. You're still a human being. I mean, especially what we go through as black men. We're the last people who should say mock anybody else because we are the hunted. Everybody hates us. Everybody wants to wipe us out.
Yeah.
And
I don't even consider orientation when I'm judging a politician.
I hear these. I listen to a lot of Tariq Nasheed, and he's right because I don't see too many Caribbeans anymore. I'm talking about men wise, but fucking Africans, bro. They got this attitude that we're lazy, we don't do shit, we didn't accomplish anything. And the sad thing is, Tariq Nasheed's right. Our forefathers paved the way for those motherfuckers to get in here. And look
don't get me started on
how ungrateful they are, bro. Them, the fucking Mexicans who hate us so much now, starting shit with us. The police.
Oh yeah, I know you heard about what happened in L.A. and stuff.
Yeah.
They got caught on camera talking crazy, which is not surprising to me. Actually,
let me tell you, the white man did that. They taped that last year, kept it in their hip pocket. Because you think the white man likes that these Mexicans are trying to be like them?
Nope. The only reason they use them because their numbers are so low.
Yeah.
And actually, that's the Democrat strategy: is try to get these Latinos to vote for them, but half of them are going to Republicans too. Oops. Oh well.
That's why now Biden's beginning to get tough with them, saying Venezuelans ain't coming over here.
Mm-hmm.
One of the worst disasters a president you ever see.
Don't look at me. I didn't vote for him. Yeah, I told people he had mental problems back then. Everybody like, no, you're just being hateful. You're a Trump supporter. Well, yeah. Yeah, vote for Trump. What you gonna do about it? Here's the thing about Trump. People try like, but he's so racist. He's so evil. Blah 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 blah. You want to know? You want to hear a scary thought?
Yeah.
I couldn't put Trump in the top 10 most racist presidents with a straight face if I tried.
Of course.
And when I say that, you're not hearing me. The first, our first 12 presidents owned slaves. And to make a long story short, we may not be able to put Trump in the top 20 most racist presidents we ever had. Because we've had some racist motherfuckers.
Of course.
In fact, ironic how black folk vote for Democrats. The guy who started the Democrat Party, Andrew Jackson, owned slaves. Oops. Did I say that out loud?
But you know what? Black people are stupid. Let's just come out and say it. I don't care. I say it all the time. They're just stupid. They believe everything, especially the women. They believe everything they see on television. That's why they're the weakest.
I stopped watching TV 4 years ago.
Shit, I stopped watching TV fucking 36 years ago, bro.
Damn.
Once they took Airwolf off the air, I was done.
Yeah, I still do streaming, but I don't do I don't do cable. I'm not paying $200 for channels I barely watch.
You're right.
I still got stuff like Disney Plus and Paramount Plus, so I can watch Star Wars, Star Trek, and all that. But
I got what you call it, Paramount. I don't even watch it. Oh, if I do, I'm watching the old Star Treks.
Yeah, I
Hawaii
usually go through
Five-O's.
Deep Space Nine or Next Generation. I like Lower Decks. That's pretty decent.
Is that the new chick?
That's the cartoon that's kind of a cross between The Simpsons and Next Generation.
Oh,
I think it's fun. I think it's good, funny enough to watch. It's definitely better than She-Hulk. Good lord, that was a train wreck.
it's that bad, right? You said that before. You and Raven in my room.
Yeah, that show was a train wreck, man. I don't know what they were. It was like, ugh.
Yeah, man.
Take that down. Yeah,
I'm
She-Hulk was
yeah.
crack. But Stacey thinks she's up in the polls. Every poll I've read she's down 3 or more. One poll I read, she's down 12, and Walker's within 1 of Warnock. So it ain't no telling what's going to happen. Plus, early voting started, and it's supposed to be record numbers. But who's the record numbers for? That's the question. You got to remember, Georgia's a Republican state.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. No, I don't go down there, so.
Well, it turned blue in 2020.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it has to stay that way.
Of course.
Because every brother I've talked to from Georgia do not like Stacey Abrams.
But they don't like Abrams?
Nope.
Well, you could take a look at her, and it's not about her weight. You could look at her and tell, and Oprah's backing you, you know the bitch is evil.
Yeah, you're right. It's not necessarily about her weight. It's about her demeanor and how she handles stuff. I know there was a video of her brother trying to ask her about reparations. She walked right past him like he didn't exist.
Walk past who?
This brother asking her about reparations. She walked right past him like he didn't even exist, like he wasn't even there. I was like, oh, okay. I see what you are.
Oh, yeah.
But I kind of see Democrats getting shellacked in November.
Yeah, I could see that too.
They might win the Senate, but I don't see them winning the House.
Let me ask you this. Who do you see challenging this old ass clown that's in there right now?
You mean in 2024?
Yeah.
Unless they actually indict him, Trump.
When do you see somebody we don't know yet? 28?
Good question.
Because nobody knew who Obama was until 04.
No.
He came out of the blue.
No, they didn't.
It's always that way.
Let's see. 08, everybody was gunning for Hillary, but then Obama came out of nowhere, and I was like, you know what? I'm backing Obama. And the rest is history. He won twice. And truth be told, Trump would have won if it wasn't for COVID.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I if he does come back, I can tell you one thing he's going to do. He's going to do what he didn't do between 2016 and 2020. This time, he's going to get niggas out of here. I'm not talking about black dudes. He's going to get these Latinos out of here, these foreigners.
Oh, he's going to build that wall, huh?
Yeah, and he's gonna throw people out of here. Yeah.
Yeah, he was notorious for that.
I see in Trump's term in office, a lot of African American men leaving the country for good. I definitely see that.
Yeah. And I keep trying to tell people, "Oh, Trump can't get." The people try to say Trump can't get elected again. Well, there's a little problem with that. You need to look up the name Grover Cleveland. If you don't know who Grover Cleveland is, he was your 22nd president, and he was your 24th president. You heard me correctly.
Yep,
Grover Cleveland was your 22nd president, and he was your 24th president. He got beat by Benjamin Harrison, who is ironically from Indiana. Then he beat Benjamin Harrison the second time, became your 24th president.
You told me that when Mike Pence was in your state.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He was that bad, huh?
Yeah, I can't stand Mike Pence. To this day, I hear he's running for president. I might have to vote third party if he wins. As much as I'm a Democrat, there's a couple of Republicans, if they get in there, if Mike Pence or Ted Cruz get that nomination, I will vote third party. Because under no circumstances will I vote for them to be president of the United States. Yeah, there's some Republicans I will never vote for. Plain and simple. But I've been on long enough, Mace. This has probably been my longest stream ever.
Oh, I was glad I was a part of it, man. Hey, you get some rest, and I'll see you around, man. I appreciate you having me up here, bro. I appreciate the political lesson I learned tonight, bro. Real talk.
Yeah, I might have to do more of these because, hey, the mainstream media ain't doing their job so bad, so I might as well do it for them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's what the platform's for. But I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. About to get out of here. About to pull up my outro video.
There you go, man. Hey, thanks for having me.
Sure, no problem.
Appreciate you, man.
I'm gonna bring you down if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm out.
And I'd like to thank everybody for coming. This is AB Media 83, and I'm out. If you like what you see today, support the channel. Hit the Cash App. There you go. Hit the Cash App. I'm out. Have a good one. Yo, this is AB Media 83. Want to support the channel? Hit the Cash App. Also, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the video. Also, be sure to hit that bell notification so you can be notified the next time I upload a live stream or video. And always remember, keep it grinding, keep it pushing, keep it moving. This is AB Media 83. And I'm out. Peace.